Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to Talladega Superspeedway as we get set for another presentation of the Flatout Racing Network here tonight at Talladega. It's the Clutch Drop Cup Series, race number 18 on the season. First race of the round of 8. Everybody is ready to get going here tonight. Lots of drivers here tonight, 25 of them plus to make onto this track. Good evening, friends. Welcome inside the FRN broadcast booth. I'm Carlos Zimmerman. Alongside of me, as always, Mr. Samuel Dyer. Sam is going to be a very, very interesting race today. 120 laps separated by 3 stages. It's going to be wild, to say the least. And that comes with the territory with being at Talladega.
Yeah, it's a new round of the playoffs. We went from 12 now down to 8, and now we've got 2 races counting Talladega here to figure out who our final 4 are going to be battling for the championship at Charlotte here in 2 weeks. And it's crazy to see. I mean, last week we lost Robert Kenny, David Duran, Tristan Maher, and Nathan Hall. They were eliminated last week and were not able to move on. But now we've got a lot of drivers that are looking very good points-wise coming into this race. I think Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford probably the most comfortable with over 25 points comfortability for both of themselves, but it's everyone that's about 3rd down to 8th place. They're all in striking distance to shuffle up here, especially with Talladega, the wild card of unknowing who's going to get caught up in that big one and who's going to be able to be running after one accident. It's going to be looming high over a lot of these playoff drivers.
Starting grid is going to roll for you guys at the bottom of your screen, if I can get it to work here. Regardless, Dylan Stipe drew the pole for this evening's race. Going to be a lot of interesting stuff to see. You know, let's look at our playoff drivers. He's one of them, so the pole is going to help him with some points. Shane Terrian, Bronson Stafford, Mike Tellier, Tom Bourne, Brandon King, Dylan Stipe, Dustin Munsell, and Philip Scott. Scott and Munsell eking their way in the last race of the first round of the playoffs. So they have a big chip on their shoulders. That's Philip Scott. That's going to be starting to the outside of the number 8, in the number 8, outside of the number 20 of Dylan Stipe. So going to be interesting to see how he operates. But, you know, this is anyone's race, Sam.
Yeah, it really is anyone's race, and especially for the front 2 of both Stipe and Phillips, they're probably in the most uncomfortable position here of all the playoff drivers, that neither of them have gotten a win so far, and they're both trying to poise themselves for a victory. And I think here at Talladega, just because everyone, it doesn't matter if you're starting in the back or starting up front, you've got a great shot to win this race. It's all about positioning yourself, making sure you're away from all the wrecks. You're going to need a little bit of luck there at the end to get the victory.
As the entire field is working their way onto the backstretch. Got a lot of camera angles for you guys tonight. There's going to be quite a bit of ways to see the action unfold. And like I said, lots of cars here. You know, that could play for trouble as well, but down the line. But Sam, keys to the race tonight at a track like Talladega.
Stay out of trouble. You do not want to be caught up in the big one early. Also, you're hoping that everyone can play nice here early. Stay patient. But for these playoff drivers, be up front, and if we stay green, we have a green flag pit stop here to finish out these stages. Stay together and don't make any mistakes on pit lane. If you can stay with at least 5 cars when you're in pit road, you're feeling comfortable that you can find yourself up front and a possible chance to win the stages and to win the race.
Stipe and Scott, they're going to be the ones leading them to the green here. Got a couple new guys in this field today as well. Well, a couple of them not new, but have not run the full season as the pace car goes in. Gerald Campbell, he's in this race. Alonzo Chicano, he's in this race as well. Cam Caldwell, as amongst others. So this is going to be interesting to see here today. 120 laps, stage break at lap 35 for stage 1, stage break at lap 70 for stage 2, and then the 50-lap sprint to the end of the race. We're glad you're with us on the Flatout Racing Network. Dylan Stipe has got the control of the field, and he will take us to the green flag as we are underway here in Talladega. Scott and Stipe lead the pack to into 1.
Super Speedway Racing, these drivers are going to be probably staying 2x2 for most of this race. We're going to be seeing a lot of 3-wide action here once it gets a little bit more intense. But right now, expecting a lot of drivers to stay 2x2. And then once we get closer on to pit stops, we'll be seeing everyone go to single file racing. But you're already seeing drivers drop into the back. I believe that was Tom Bourne that decided to just duck it to the inside and trying to already drop his way back to the end of the line, which is a strategy here at Super Speedway Races. But up front, a great run by Stipe that's still holding strong on the inside.
Alonso Chicano holding in line behind him in second. Just behind him is the first luminary car of the group. That's Bronson Stafford. Then you got Tristan Maher there in fourth. And then Cam Caldwell up there as well. I believe he's on the outside line. Mike Tellier in some position shuffling around, but it's Dylan Stipe that leads the opening lap as they head back into turn one. That outside line, you're going to see both lines today in full force, because, just the way that this track runs, you can run the outside and the inside if you have enough drafting partners.
Yeah, and, you're trying to just see in these early stages of this race is to try to get as much information about how your car is feeling early on. This is an open setup league, so all these drivers are thinking, okay, do I need to make any adjustments here once I get into pit road, or does it feel strong enough? And does my car have enough speed to make sure that I can be pushing and also leading these groups up front?
As Dylan Stipe continues to lead that inside line, Philip Scott, other playoff driver, he's leading that outside and starting to see the groups form here at Talladega as we're now just on to lap number 3 as Dylan Stipe and Scott continue to lead because that second group back there, I believe, led right now by the 22 of Gary Peck. Justin Belmonte leading that pack, actually, of those guys that decided to drop back. Smart move or bad move, Sam?
I think it's a pretty smart move for a lot of these drivers. I think the only driver I'm concerned about that's back here has got to be Tom Bourne, one of our playoff drivers. And Tom is one of our bubble drivers coming into this week. He's fourth. He's good to be into the next round, but he's only got a 3-point lead over Brandon King. And so you want to make sure that you are getting these stage points that have been so crucial. That's what helped Philip Scott to point his way into this round that we're in right now, was because of all the stage points that 8 machine was able to collect. So I think Tom Bourne, only driver so far of our playoff drivers, in kind of a precarious spot, but up front, we're already starting to see drivers side by side, and that's 3-wide action. Robert Kenny being led and pushed by Gerald Campbell.
You see Matt Dyer up there as well. Robert Kenny, you see on that outside line, of course, being pushed by Gerald Campbell, as you said, Sam, trying to get a third line started. Don't know if that's going to work. 2 cars versus 7 on the inside line, and then possibly 10 on the 10 on the inside line, 7 on the outside. So you got to think you're going to need to get more people up there to try and get some help as they are starting to fan out a bit here at the front. Shane Terrian and Justin Munsell, a couple playoff drivers, they're hanging out back here in this 17-car pack. Could spell for some trouble, and we talked pre-race, with how this field, we have just enough in this field, 26 drivers. One wreck could really take out at least half the field.
Yeah, I mean, one wreck. I was talking about how Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford, both of them feeling comfortable with their points, but if they get wrecked early and cannot finish this race and finish back in 26th place, they could be finding themselves outside of our top 4 in points, and their chances of a championship would be kind of stifled for a second. But you're already starting to see it 3-wide action on the back half of our first pack, and it's interesting how the cars are going to be slicing and dicing. You've got drivers that are trying to first and foremost thinking of how can I get up front first. Other drivers are thinking, how do I stay with my teammate? And some are just taking whatever is given to them. If there's a space below them or above them, they're taking that spot.
There's David Duran getting a really big push from Robert Kenny as we're on lap 6 of the scheduled 120. About 30 laps left in the stage break again at lap 35 for this first stage. Is that an extreme outside line still trying to bunch up there, but it's not working. Speaking of which, here comes Alonso Chicano moving to the outside line, looking to get help from Bronson Stafford as that move is made. No, Stafford's going to go 3 wide for the lead into 3.
Yeah, and it's going to be that 95 machine stuck in the middle in the sucker hole. No help to be seen, but still holding strong as there's still 3 wide. But that's when we get on the front stretch where all that speed and momentum is needed. But the 95 still holding strong. I don't know how he is doing this right now with no help.
Just the raw speed underneath that number 5-4 Mustang. Bronson Stafford leads that lap on our screen at the line. We had 5 drivers so close within each other they couldn't even put down a time on our timing screen. But now Alonso Chicano on the inside line, bringing Gerald Campbell with him. We saw Gerald Campbell outside the top 10 a little bit ago as more cars starting to fan out 2-3 wide, trying to get out of it. Mike Tellier, and I believe that's the 10 of Cam Caldwell. They're saying, nah, we don't want to deal with this, as they continue to race hard onto the backstretch and now back into turns 3 and 4. Philip Scott now the one falling back, and I think they realize that they're getting a little bit crazy, and they're going to woe it down now.
Yeah, with the 95 being stuck in the middle and there was so much space, that's where we saw Gerald Campbell and Robert Kenny kind of take that opportunity, utilize that draft, and to pass over about 8 drivers in just one straightaway. So it's given those drivers their chances. We're 3 wide once again for the lead, now 3 wide for second place.
As Alonso Chicano continues to lead that inside line, and now Robert Kenny is going to be the one stuck on the outside. Lap 8 on the board here. Still a long way to go. We're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll bring you more action here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series here tonight from Talladega on the Flatout Racing Network. Back here at the Talladega Superspeedway, lap 10 now on the board of 120, 25 laps to go in the stage when we come around. Lots of action happening at the front. Carlos Zimmerman, Sam Dyer here with you guys tonight here on the Flatout Racing Network for the first race of the second round of the Clutch Drop Cup Series playoffs, as Alonso Chicano was leading for a little bit there before we went to break, and now Bronson Stafford finds himself in the lead with a good push from Gerald Campbell.
Yeah, and Campbell's starting to get me a little nervous on the entry of these corners. He's just carrying so much more speed than everyone else that he's kind of just that machine doesn't feel stable or look stable at all, as he's touching the apron periodically when we're in these corners, which it's not a safe place to be. But really, everyone 5th on back still staying 2 by 2. As Robert Kenny now going to be shuffling to the high side, looking for some help and trying to maybe pull along there Justin Munsell, he's outside of our top 4 in points and needing a decent day here to possibly point his way into the next round or even win and automatically move on.
I was watching that 98 through that first set of corners, turns 1 and 2. Caleb Smith was really awfully close to that left rear quarter panel. That's a danger zone. You do not want to get into that left rear quarter panel, or else you're going to be sending the guy in front of you around, and you might be taking yourself out in the process. So something to watch for at any racetrack, especially here at Talladega, as Bronson Stafford continues to be the field general at the front. Gerald Campbell, like you said, Sam, still a bit squirrely, trying to hang in there in second. It's now Robert Kenny leading that outside line. Saw him stuck on the extreme outside a bit ago, and now he's leading that outside line with a push from his teammate and Justin Munsell.
Yeah, we're starting to really see a shift of drivers that are feeling a lot more comfortable with their machines and feel like, hey, we can be battling up front. We got a really strong car. Robert Kenny, as well as Bronson Stafford, Justin Munsell. These drivers that have gotten up front, they are feeling extremely strong based off those playoff drivers. Stipe's still in the top 10, but it's Philip Scott that has dropped back down to 12. Tom Bourne has now moved up to 13th, Shane Tarian in 15th. But the driver I'm watching, but he's still in the draft, just a little bit further back, that's going to be Brandon King in the 89 machine, back in 20th position. a little bit too far back for my liking, but we're still pretty far back from actually having pit stops, which that should be around lap 20 to 25.
So that's about 7 to 12 laps from now as the battling continues up front amongst these leaders as they fly down the back straightaway. You're watching on our drone cam here. Still 3 wide. Robert Kenny on the inside. Caleb Smith on the extreme outside. And then in the middle is Bronson Stafford. Car getting loose. There was Jacob Grant. But he collects himself and he is still going. Nearly scary moment there in turns 3 and 4. One of the danger spots today.
Yeah, well, we're going to be having to talk about teammates and alliances, and that's what we're seeing on the high side. That's CEM Motorsports of Caleb Smith, Hardison, and as well Matt Dyer. And then you also look with Jacob Grant joining in with that fray, and then you got Luminary that are trying to work with some teammates of their own, and also some partners of PRC of Gerald Campbell joining in that group with the Luminary guys.
They settle it back out to 2 by 2 here. Lap 14 on the board. 21 laps left in this stage. 21 cars are within 2.5 seconds of the race leader, Bronson Stafford, and it's going to be Robert Kenny, too. They'll be trading back and forth. Few cars further back, it's all non-playoff drivers. Travis Daly, Nathan Hall, Jesse Powers, and Gary Peck. This group here all by themselves, running in a group, though, so that's something to see when it comes time for pit stops. And then trouble for Deshaun Gorham. He has not had the car today. He is 26th right now and way off the pace. Going to likely be lapped before long as they're still battling at the front. Now 3 wide again. Munsell stuck on the high side. He's got Stafford back further with him, but they're going to have to drop back to collect themselves. It's Robert Kenny in the lead as they head to the backstretch.
Yeah, Bronson was leading that outside line and then moved up to the third lane, is dropping back to work with Tom Bourne and Shane Terrian that are back at the end of this line. So teammates deciding, hey, we've got a strong car to be up front, and I think we're probably going to periodically be seeing the Luminary guys that don't need to be up front battling so hard for them to drop back. For those that are looking for stage points, they're going to keep on moving forward like we've been seeing Munsell and also Robert Kenny, who's leading the charge at the moment.
Jacob Grant, our winner last week, he's hanging up here in the front, trying to give a good push to Caleb Smith when they come to the line here. Smith, by half a car length, leads the lap. Remember, you don't get any points for leading a lap, but it sure does feel good if you're a driver running up here at the front at Talladega and not in the back where you could run in to more trouble. As Spencer Hardison, you see him up there 4th on that outside line. Still hanging up here is Alonzo Chicano, one of the newcomers. He's hanging on that inside line, 3rd on that line, trying to help the push for Campbell and Kenny. But that outside line looks more organized as they head to 3, and they'll put Caleb Smith into the lead.
Yeah, I mean, based off of how the practice was going, it's the guys that were on the outside. Caleb Smith, Matt Dyer, Spencer Hardison. They were all the fastest group working
Pit
together
stops
during practice. But yeah, here they come.
Oh, trouble! Robert Kenny, Caleb Smith in the grass. No, I don't know if they're going to save it. Kenny did. Did Smith save it? Indeed, they did. Wow.
But Smith's so off the pace, he's most likely going to lose the draft. And what was looking like a great day for himself and going up in smoke as we're continuing to look back to see where Robert Kenny is. But, oh no, you hate to see something like that happen while you're coming in for a green flag pit stop.
Oh, it wasn't even that. They weren't coming in. I think it was because of the reaction of those guys that were coming down into the pits, and that's what got the 34 and the 25 together. The 25 looks like he was able to remerge with the draft in the 11th position, so it didn't hurt him badly, but it's going to hurt him in the long run. As more cars head into the pits, Munsell, Stafford, Kenny, and amongst others.
Yeah, and then the 3 drivers that are going to be staying out up front, that's Grant, Dyer, Hardison, and then you also got Gerald Campbell that's kind of off of pace a little bit further back. Then you also got Evan Coleman. Caleb Smith's about to be caught up by Belmonte, King, and Schilling. But this is an interesting shakeup of drivers coming into the pits earlier than I was expecting them to.
Yeah, we're on lap 18. I think they're splitting the stage in half, Sam, as this is the halfway point of the stage. That second group of cars have now left the pits. Do want to note, Alonzo Chicano had an extended stay in pits, likely a pit road penalty for the 95. Might have been too fast entering.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Caught speeding was the 95 machine. Now going to be all on his lonesome, kind of similar to what we were seeing from Deshaun Gorham, and this is terrible for one of the fastest machines up front.
At pack way in the back of Travis Daly, Jesse Powers, Gary Peck, and Nathan Hall. They are now in the pits and getting service. Nathan Hall, the only one of them to take tires, as everyone else either took fuel or maybe just right sides only for some of those guys. Nope, Gary Peck, he takes tires as well. Another group of the lead pack cars, they are now in the pits as well. It's a trio of Justin Belmonte, Brandon King, and Derek Schilling.
Yeah, and those drivers now going to be trying to get out in a way as the front three of Grant, Dyer, and Hardison still running strong and not really showing any signs of them coming into the pits. And what's interesting to see is that it's the three-car pack that's moving along up front. They're running about 48.5. The groups that are in a much bigger pack, they're running a little bit slower, if not about very similar times to what this lead group is. So even with a pack of three, still extremely strong. And that practice time that they put in certainly is worth it at the moment. But the drivers that have already pitted, it's being led by Robert Kenny, Bronson Stafford, and Munsell and Shane Tarian. Those luminary guys, they're in line in 8th place.
Well, whenever these top 6 likely pit, they'll just merge in with that big second group that's currently 7th to 17th. So a 10-car group there that they're going to merge in with, and once again make it a pretty sizable pack. It's a matter of when they will come in, and all 3 of them will come in now. Jacob Grant, Matt Dyer, and Spencer Hardison. We're waiting on Gerald Campbell. Likely he'll be coming in. There he is. Evan Coleman. Gotta woe it up, guys, as they do. Deshaun Gorham in for a second stop, and then the Caleb Smith machine. He is back in as well. Justin Belmonte, he was back here in the pits too. May have had to serve a penalty or had to come in and get something fixed. So trouble for him, as we're going to be waiting on that pack led by Robert Kenny to come around and pass these guys currently in the pits.
Yeah, they're going to be coming out of 4 right now as that group that just came out. It looks like they were kind of trying to wait for everyone else, make sure everyone's in line, as Dyer is going to be leading that train of drivers. But here comes Kenny and others as they're passing these cars that just were under pit road.
Kenny, Munsell, Stafford, and Tarian. 4 luminary guys right there as they go by Gerald Campbell. Got 3 more to pass, and they're all right there. Evan Coleman, and then Matt Dyer is the last one that they need to pass, as they will make the pass there, as we are at 100 laps to go, 15 laps left, as Munsell is going to throw the teammate out to dry and go for the lead himself into 3.
Yeah, and that could have been a move by the team orders. I mean, all these drivers, these are the 4 drivers of Munsell, Bronson Stafford, Shane Tarian, as well as Robert Kenny. They're trying to be the 4 drivers. I mean, excuse me, Robert Kenny is out of this, but certainly are trying to help one another out points-wise. And so Kenny's not battling for a championship. He's going to be giving his teammates that are trying to get into the Final 4, giving them all the space. But here comes Mike Tellier in that larger group. They're coming on the high side, and blocks might be made here.
Now they have the lap car of Alonso Chicano also trying to deal with these guys, as Tellier and I believe that is Maher on the extreme high side trying to give the push. No, excuse me. That is the 98 of, well, there's 2 98s out there. That's interesting. I think that's Maher. Either way, Tellier making the push here. Stafford on the extreme high side. Tarian there in the middle with help from the FRN car of Tom Bourne.
That orange and red and yellow glow on the low end of the car, that's going to be Tristan Maher, who's working with Mike Tellier. Is now they're going to be dropping down, trying to work in Tellier right in front of Grant. I mean, the way that these drivers are shuffling, being 3 wide and just cutting across one another, you got a sense the big one could be hitting these drivers before we even get to the end of stage 1.
Well, they got to keep it together, This isn't the first race of the day for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys, they were on the Daytona road course today in a 24-hour special event, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm sure the fatigue may be setting in for a lot of these guys. I know, I believe Stafford was in that race. A lot of the luminary guys were in that race.
About half the luminary guys were in it. CEM was also racing. Like over half of them were involved in this race. I believe NSM was in the 24-hour race. But yeah, a lot of racing went down this weekend. And then also some of the other drivers, there was actually a super speedway race that they were a part of before this race. So a little bit of practice for other leagues to prepare. But these drivers, certainly fatigue is something that they are going to have to worry about the longer this race goes on, if they're not already just exhausted with all the racing that's been going down today.
Tellier, a little squirrely behind the 54 of Tom Bourne, as Bourne is kind of separated from his teammates right now. They're about to run up on the lap machine of Nathan Hall. who should just get out of the way and ride that extreme high side, and they'll go right by him. That'll put him a lap down. That's going to allow Chicano to pass him. As speaking of which, Chicano is trying to merge back in front of Robert Kenny as he got a little out of shape, but he gets it back in cleanly as the battling for the lead continues. Campbell trying to work a third line up there, no help. Leading that lap that time was the 54 of Bourne and the red FRN machine, with the push from the 3 of Mike Tellier, a familiar sight as always, and then last week's winner, Jacob Grant on the high side. Lap 25 on the board, 10 to go in the stage.
Yeah, and this is when we're going to see the drivers really shuffling. If they're on the farther ends of this pack, they're going to be trying to figure out how to get up front. And, based off of drivers that are inside of the championship and the final 8 that are trying to make it to be the final 4 to go for that championship run, I mean, you got to continue to just look at where Philip Scott is. 15th place for that 8 machine, needs to get into the top 10 for stage points. But Brandon King, probably the biggest disappointment, he's dropped all the way back to 16th place, over 9.7 seconds back from our leaders, and extremely off the pace and no longer in any zone to be gaining stage points unless a big one happens up front.
The big one is going to be the thing for Brandon King to get back in this. It's a 4-car pack back there. Brandon King, Derek Schilling, Spencer Hardison, and Caleb Smith. As these guys are going to be, before long, running up on the 15 and the 44 of Travis, the 15 of Daly, the 44 of Jesse Powers. And they're a tandem team right now, so they're going to have to figure it out and try to get around those guys. Could put a wrench into this whole thing as it's a luminary top 5, basically. Well, Kenny just fell out as Stafford, Munsell, and Bourne run 1, 2, 3 with the lap machine of Chicano trying to hang up there.
Yeah, and driver I'm curious about is the fact that it was Shane Tarian, that 83 machine kind of got shuffled out of the luminary train that was going on up front and finding himself back in 11th place. But certainly a lot of racing still to be seen. And when you're on the inside watching these super speedway races, it's kind of frustrating at times because you're kind of just stuck in just following the driver in front of you. When you're in the outer lane, you can force the issue as they're trying to get by the lap machines that are going to be staying low. Everyone has to go high.
Boy.
And Mike Tellier getting a little squirrely there in the 3, able to hold on, but has to go all the way up to the high side.
Matt Dyer, it's a moving pick, basically, to use a basketball term, as Gerald Campbell and others trying to get around the 44 of Jesse Powers, but Powers is staying content to that inside as Tellier had to get run up. Dyer trying his best to get around them. I guarantee that these lead lap guys are not happy with the 15 and the 44 right now.
No, usually the lap cars will go high and stay there. But, I mean, if you're going to stay low, usually if you're running so much slower, you'll just go to the apron and get out of the way. But yeah, certainly a moving pick for sure being seen by the lap cars that are still getting just passed by everyone. And now we're everyone trying to get cycled through. But this is certainly a nerve-wracking situation with the drivers in the middle of the field as Campbell gets extremely out of shape. And that's something that we're going to continue to see because these drivers, the loose sensation, it's just going to continue on if your setup is way too loose here.
Saw it on your screen, Campbell getting out of shape there as you got the lap machine of Gary Peck in that mix as well, as Bronson Stafford and Tom Bourne have seemingly been trading the leading of the race back and forth as you see Tellier on the back of your screen. He's slopping back as well. Luminary trying to hang in there on the outside as well as, man, Gary Peck, he's all over the place on that inside. I am worried about what Peck might be in trouble here. It's being 2 laps down and right in the mix of everything.
Yeah, Peck certainly not in the best place, certainly, but just trying to follow suit as Peck's trying to be working with there of the 95 of Chicano and doing an okay job at it. But, I mean, you got to be thinking the drivers on the inside, they're just hoping that the lap cars can push them and just kind of be a wall at times as Luminary leading both the inside and that middle groove. And we'll see who's going to be popping up to that third lane here once we come to the end of this stretch for station number 1.
Before long, and maybe Tristan Maher trying to move up there. I've seen him try to make a couple moves to that outside of Robert Kenny. Hasn't worked for him just yet as Stafford continues to lead on the inside. Bourne trying to work with him on the inside with Munsell leading the outside. Bourne and the 61 of Stafford, of course, they're running for points. Munsell, who eked his way in last week, they're trying to get it done as well. It's just a lot of stuff to think about going into this round. It is such a tough track to open a round with, because if you wreck and out of this race, you're going to be climbing a major hill going into next week. So, as Campbell nearly gets out of shape again, but saves it. Seen it so many times tonight. A lot of these drivers getting out of shape, but kudos to them for saving it.
Yeah, it's Campbell and Tellier. Those are the two machines that have been the most loose and out of shape and kind of in a wrecking's edge. And we'll continue to watch that as the race progresses. As going to the inside, there goes Peck, just deciding to get out of sequence and just dropping out of this pack. But looking at the drivers right now, it's got to be Evan Coleman as well as Philip Scott that are trying to stay with this lead pack as they just continue to chug along. But those two drivers kind of cut their way through lap traffic and just got able to.
Riding on board with last week's winner at Atlanta, Jacob Grant, trying to make the pass right now on the 2 of Matt Dyer as he's running up on the lap machine of Alonso Chicano. Kind of tight, trying to fit it in a hole that may not be there in about 100 feet, but he does as he's forced to ride back in line again behind the 2. I think he's trying to split it. 3 wide between the lap machine, and a big check up there and onto the back straightaway for a lot of these guys. Maher backing down the 2, and it's going to automatically form that third line on the extreme outside.
Yeah, Dyer saw that opportunity, threw it to the high side, going to be working now with Tellier and Chicano, and that's a pretty strong outside groove. Chicano showed the pace, just got caught speeding under our green flag pit stop and trying to be the first car 1 lap down and doing a great job at it so far, as now it's going to be Maher dropping up to the high side. Grant's just going to be following suit and utilizing that middle lane that's carrying so much speed. Now Dyer and Tellier are going to be trying to duke out and deke out the 17 and able to do so, as it's going to be Tristan Maher stuck on the outside.
As Maher, he slides back, but slides back in line as they'll try to sort everything out and maybe set up something for these final 2 laps, as we got 3 to go in the stage. Lap 33 on the board, 88 laps to go here tonight at Talladega as the Luminary train, they're 2x2 right there, 61 and 54 on the inside, 98, 34 on the outside. Lap machine of Chicano on the bottom, then there's Jacob Grant, then there's Gerald Campbell. Dylan Stipe, the pole sitter, back up here with this group. Matt Dyer, look at Cam Caldwell trying to make some noise up here, last car on that outside line as they hit the line. 2 laps to go in this first stage at Talladega.
I mean, doesn't this look so familiar, though, Carlos? I mean, looking at how these drivers of Luminary, they do this at every track that is so primary on the draft. They get up front, they get at least 4 drivers up there and kind of just make a wall where it's almost impossible for the rest of the field to get past them in any way unless you kind of wreck them. And we're seeing it now, especially with how they're dominating the inside and the outside lane.
2 and basically a lap and a half now to go. Chicano hanging in there on the inside, caught the apron a little bit. Remember, that yellow line is out of bounds. You're not allowed to pass underneath of it, if I'm not mistaken, as when they come to the line, it'll be the white flag in the stage. Bourne kissing the yellow line as well, trying to get as much speed as we can. Who is going to win this first stage? Does one of the non-playoff drivers try to play spoiler here and try and get points, as Stafford and Munsell leading that outside line with help from everybody else?
It's going to be all the drivers fighting to make sure they're inside of the top 10. Mike Tellier, he has got to be scratching and crawling to get into the top 10, because right now he's outside of that, needing all the points that he can. Now on that third lane, it's going to be Matt Dyer as well as Jacob Grant trying to make a move here on the Luminary guys, but that inside lane just looks so dominant with that of Bronson Stafford and Tom Bourne, and here comes Chicano as well as that of Campbell, but it's Tom Bourne and Bronson Stafford trying to pull away that 2-car tandem, just looking so much better than everyone else, but through the travel, here they come.
Stafford getting it to the line. Bourne, as they run up on lap traffic, really good timing, and at the line, it is Bronson Stafford. That takes stage number 1. Tom Bourne gets second, as everyone's got to whoa up here for the caution as it has been thrown. Gerald Campbell, I believe, got 3rd, Munsell 4th, Dylan Stipe 5th, Robert Kenny 6th, Shane Terrian 7th, David Duran 8th, Jacob Grant 9th, and Matt Dyer 10th. Of course, those are unofficial. We'll get the official ones in a bit, but what is official, Bronson Stafford gets stage number 1 here at Talladega, and that is a big booster for him, because if you think about it, in the live points, that puts him atop the playoff grid.
Yeah, well, right now would be ahead of Shane Terrian if it ended where it's at now. But Mike Tellier, this is not good for him. He was outside of the top 10 for stage points. Philip Scott as well and Brandon King were not able to get stage points for themselves. And this is going to be difficult for those drivers to figure out how they're going to be moving their way forward. Looking at Stipe, though, that 20 machine got the pole and now going to be able to get some bonus points with stage points. This is looking pretty good for the 20 machine that's just been doing the same thing all season long. That's stay consistent and finish in the top 10.
As the pace car has collected the field here. I believe the pits are not open just yet. The pits are not open just yet. So let's take the opportunity and talk to our stage 1 winner, Bronson.
Here they come.
Oh, never mind. Here they come. All right, we'll wait till Stafford comes out of the pits then, trying to tease me and whatnot, as they will all come on down. A couple spots shuffled in that top 10. Robert Kenny actually got 5th. Stipe got 6th, and Shane Terrian got 7th. The rest of your order is Jacob Grant, Matt Dyer, and David Durand, as the leaders are in, and nobody stayed out.
Yeah, and just looking at these drivers and the way that run went, they're going to need a lot more help on that third lane if they're going to try to get by the Luminary guys. If they do the same exact thing they just did, but stage 1 and stage 2 might look a little different. I think for some of those drivers that were able to finish up front, they might be thinking, "Hey, let's go long game here. We got some stage points. Maybe don't risk it for stage 2. Let's just linger in the back until the end of the race comes around."
So a Luminary 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the pits. The one missing is Shane Terrian because he has an extended stay in the pits. He's going to restart 14th, so that's not what he wanted to have happen so far in this race, but still a lot to go. Now, we will now talk to our Stage 1 winner, Bronson Stafford. Hey, Bronson, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep, I do.
Alrighty, man, what a good ride for you through that first stage. Got a little choppy here and there once we got through the green flag pit stops, but it ended up prevailing for you. You and Tom, pretty good drafting duo, both of you going for playoff spots. What's the idea there? Just to work with him throughout the majority of this race until you can't anymore, or what?
Yeah, the nice thing with having like the team size that Luminary does is we're able just to kind of draft together and do what we can. Like we were holding the top and bottom there for the longest time and just kind of holding the spots so we could all try and get good stage points, and it worked out for Tom and I. But we started getting draft off lapped cars in front of us, so the line pulled really clear. But yeah, pretty much kind of work together until we can't anymore and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Bronson, usually the strategy is either to stay up front or move to the back. We've been seeing a lot of cars shuffling in the middle. Is your goal from here on out really for Luminary? Just stay up front and dominate these lanes?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't know how much more hectic it's maybe going to get here with the second stage or whatnot. I don't know. I think everyone's just kind of playing their own game, trying to maybe get stage points and have it easier into next week, or just try and get the finish for this race and take it into Chicago next week and try and get the good results there. So I don't know. We'll see. It really depends on how the pack's behaving. If it's kind of hectic, then you kind of want to bail out and not get wrecked, because ultimately stage points are nice, but the race points are worth more.
Alrighty, Bronson. Best of luck to you the rest of the way. We'll see if you're able to stay out of trouble, and if you take stage 2, we'll talk to you then.
All right, thanks.
Was Bronson Stafford your stage 1 winner? Pace car lights are out. We're going to go back green this time by, like I said, a Luminary 1, 2, 3, 4 coming out of the pits. Stafford, Bourne, Robert Kenny, and Justin Munsell. The rest of the top 10 was Gerald Campbell, Dylan Stipe, Jacob Grant, David Durand, Tristan Maher, and then Matt Dyer. Going to be an interesting restart here. 20 cars on the lead lap. Alonso Chicano was the recipient of the lucky dog. Everyone though, still on the racetrack. No one in the garage area, so nice to see all 26 cars that took the green flag out there and rolling for this second stage.
Yeah, Carlos, I'm a fan of looking at the patterns and what changes throughout the season and things that just keep on popping up. I didn't want to say while Bronson was in an interview with us, but stage winners have been having some terrible luck these last about 6 races. And I don't think Bronson wanted to hear that, but we have to state that it has been blatantly obvious that if you win a stage, you're most likely going to have some bad luck that is going to put you back in either the second stage or the rest of the race.
Well, just look at last week at Atlanta. Mike Tellier won stage one, and I believe he ended up finishing outside of the top 10. I'm trying to find him here on this list. I believe he finished outside of it. And then Bronson Stafford, he won the second stage and then ended up third. So it's the kind of thing. So it's not like he wrecked out of the race. It was just a happenstance that Jacob Grant and Matt Dyer had the better cars at the end of that race last week at Atlanta. As you saw, yeah, Mike Tellier, he ended up 19th in the race at Atlanta. So it is not going to be ideal.
And also, I mean, Atlanta was a lot more a fuel strategy, and that's what gave Jacob Grant a solid chance to win out that race and Matt Dyer to get second. And we'll see if anything will turn into a fuel mileage race here at Talladega. Green flag is out in the air. Luminary already taking off, and really from about sixth on back, they were lost on knowing when to take off.
Well, the good thing with the draft here, it is the suck up is so good, so everyone should be able to just suck right back up to each other. It should be roughly an 18-car pack once everything, is just said and done. 39 laps complete, 82 to go. The second stage ends in 31 laps. So if the strategy stays the same like the first stage, is David Duran and Jacob Grant nearly got together on the backstretch. What I was trying to say before that happened is they are going to likely split this stage in half. They pit at lap 35, so maybe expect them to come in again, per se, around lap 52.
Yeah, splitting this section in half, probably the best option for a lot of these drivers. And 52 seems like a pretty good marker. Probably for the guys that stretched it even further, probably around 55 is probably another spot that they might be thinking about sending these cars out to 56. But up front, they're all in line here for the first 6 cars. Then they're side by side where you got Matt Dyer and Jacob Grant, who's just trying to 2-car tandem their way forward, as we do have our first DNF of the day. Peck not able to finish out this race as issues for the 22.
As Bronson Stafford, Justin Munsell, they're leading this group. Luminary staying 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly almost the same as they came out of the pits. Gerald Campbell, Jacob Grant, and Matt Dyer, just those two. Trying to work on the outside, not going to work against the line of 10 cars. As the top 20 all within 2.5 seconds of each other, so they're hanging in there. Lap machines just trying to, I believe, are the ones that are trying to lag back behind the lead group.
Wow, these 2 cars on the outside, Dyer and Grant, are just muscling their way through. They've already passed 4 drivers, and they're now going to get side by side with everyone that was lined up on the inside. Great power move by those 2 and showing the speed that they've got. For the rest of the field, they've got to recognize it's possible to 2-car tandem their way up to the front. The difficult part is making the pass, and that's where we're going to be seeing it. Stipe now going to be moving up to the high side. Shane Terrian and also Hardison, they're going to be a little bit further back, but still trying to make the big move on the high side.
That just shows you the power of the 2-car tandem, but that also is a testament to the fact that the inside line is not very organized at all. Good enough of space between everybody, especially right there with Bourne, Munsell, and Kenny. That's what's allowing these the 2 of Matt Dyer and the 7 of Grant to hang in there, but kind of died out, as you said, Sam, right when they got to the right side door of the 61 of Stafford. As that outside line is starting to form, though. Big pack group forming here on the backstretch.
Yeah, and another reason why we also saw it stall out was because Dyer used so much. Big block there by Stafford, trying to hold off Grant, and now he's going to be stuck on the high side as Grant stays at even higher. 3-wide action here for second place, and Grant, now we're going to be seeing our stage 1 winner stuck in the middle and just going back.
Is the stage 1 drama still happening as Stipe is trying to figure out which line to go with? Stafford's going to be able to pick up his Luminary teammate in Shane Terrian, who restarted 14th and is all the way up to the 6th spot with the help of the draft. We got 3 lines of cars now. Hardison there in the middle with Caleb Smith. 3 cars on the outside. Stipe, Grant, and Matt Dyer. Lots of action and happening at the front. Munsell is right now the favored car on the inside.
And now we're seeing right back to where we were before. I mean, the way that stage 1 ended with the side-by-side racing of Luminary on the inside and on the outside, that's exactly where we're at now. A little bit of shuffling on who's leading those groups and where they're placed, but now it's showing the rest of the field. You got to work together if you're going to be getting by these other drivers. And it's going to be a tall order, but possible is now we're starting to see CEM Motorsports of Hardison as well as Smith, Grant, and Dyer lined up on the outside, and they could be the ones that could be trying to make a move here.
Bourne, he's hanging in there on that inside, second in that line. Luminary for a moment was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of the top 5 spots held by Luminary. Spencer Hardison right now is the one trying to put a nit into that, as Stafford and Terrian, they're a little squirrely on the backstretch there, trying to shake and, well, to be frank, shake and bake their way to the lead as Stafford takes the lead back, jumping down in front of his teammate in Munsell.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these drivers and where they're placed at the moment, I mean, you got to be thinking there had to be alliances made with certain drivers and teams. But, oh my goodness.
Tom Bourne. Wow, that was a risky move to say the least, and now he's going to pay the price for it, as no one's going to go with him on the extreme outside.
I think he might be thinking, hey, I just need a breather here. Staying up front is getting a little bit chaotic. Hey, let's not get myself in too much trouble. Back off to the back, and this was what Bourne did early in stage 1, was being all the way in the back and then worked his way up to the front and was with Bronson Stafford. So we've already seen the 54 machine do this before. We'll see if he can do it again, but now there's not as strong of a Luminary defense on the high side as Shane Terrian trying to find some space to possibly drop down, as that outside groove, it has lost all their momentum as we're coming closer and closer to pit lane, probably getting a lot of action shortly here. I mean, looking at how far the drivers can go, probably here in the next 5 laps, that's when we'll probably be seeing the drivers that are trying to pit early make their pit stops.
Want to make another report here, as the new leader on the outside is Tristan Maher. See if that's a better idea, as Terrian looks to be a good pusher, as they're really getting a good suck up here to the leaders. Do want to report Jesse Powers and Deshaun Gorham, they have taken their cars behind the wall along with Gary Peck, so that leaves us with 23 cars on the lead lap, 3 of them off the lead lap, as I want to point something out here, Sam. The top 20, all within a second and a half of each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's just super speed racing. Everyone's going to stay so close, and it's about how you can march your way through the field and utilize the little holes and pockets that open up, and also finding drivers that are willing to work with you, as our leaders are going to put Travis Daly down for the 3rd time. 3 laps down is the 15 machine, just trying to find space. But up front, they're shaking and they're baking, as it's going to be Tristan Maher, excuse me.
They're 4 wide. They're 4 wide.
Oh, no.
They're 4 wide.
Caleb Smith.
And there they go. Mike Tellier, playoff driver involved. It's off the racing surface. Caution is out.
Oh, no. It's Mike Tellier, also Hardison involved in this thing. Our last week winner, Jacob Grant, involved. And it was Hardison and Smith. They were so close to one another that they started bouncing off, and then it just sent Hardison to the high side, and no one really had anywhere to go from that point.
Believe it or not, it looks like it may have only been a 3 to 4 car incident. Could have been a lot worse. It was towards the backside of the lead lap groups, as I think Jacob Grant, like you said, he actually just went to pit row, teleported there. So trouble for last week's winner. Had a really good car tonight. Spencer Hardison, he's got no front end. He's Richard Pettying it down into the pits. Mike Tellier, just from the looks of it,
he doesn't have a back bumper. I mean, that's going to be something to deal with. He's also got some front end damage that should be able to get repaired, but that rear end not having anything there, I mean, that could be something that's going to be hurting the 3 for sure, arrow-wise, moving forward. But, I mean, this is massive for Mike Tellier, who was 3rd in points and was around, I believe, 30-plus points over at that point. No, excuse me, he was, I believe, doing quick math again, I'm a little bit off at the moment, was a total of 9 points ahead of Brandon King. And now with this issue, certainly is going to be a struggle. Spencer Hardison has parked it for the day. We'll see if Jacob Grant's going to park it or not, trying to see how long those repairs are going to be. But man, this could be disastrous for the 3 machine that was looking for a better day here of just finishing in the top 15. But that's our first wreck of the day. Plenty more, I think, should be coming here later on in this race.
Well, believe it or not, Sam, I think it's our first wreck since Kentucky, as all the cautions last week at Atlanta were for the stage. So it's been a while since we've had a caution for or on track incident, as we're going back and taking a look to see what happened between the 3, the 14. Well, you saw it, they were 4 wide, but there was a lot more to it than that. I'm going to watch here from Hardison's perspective, as you'll see them coming through 1 and 2 in the 4 wide started with Terrian on the extreme outside.
Yeah, and it started there, and then once the bobbling and turning into a pinball happened for Hardison, he got into Jacob Grant, and then Mike Tellier just nowhere to go, throwing it into the inside as well with him. So these drivers certainly not the way that they wanted the race to go. I mean, Hardison had a pretty quick car. Jacob Grant showed with Dyer. They were quick tandem to work and see. Mike Tellier's machine was already extremely loose. Now, with not having that spoiler that's going to help with the downforce with coming through these corners, I'm nervous for the 3 machine. If he has enough speed to even stay with the front pack, how loose is he going to be in these corners?
As you see it there on our drone cam, 7 planning that wall, and then you saw Tellier there fly into that inside wall with the backside. So that's going to definitely hinder him, like Sam said, arrow-wise. Hardison already out of the race. Grant, in long time in the pits, so his day is likely done as well. That's what's got us under our second caution of the night. First one for an on-track incident, as I'm looking here, I believe the top 3 on the racetrack, Tristan Maher, David Duran, and Philip Scott, they all stayed out.
Yeah, I think they're going to be coming in this time by just trying to get a little bit more fuel because they are right on the razor's edge of making it to the end of the stage. And I think our front 3 were thinking, hey, let's not pit early. Let's try to get some track position and then pit it later on and see who follows behind us to try to do an extra fill up. I'm just starting to see. I'm expecting our front 3 to come in this time by, and a sparse of cars to be coming in after that, thinking about a fuel mileage run to make it to the end of stage number 2.
As Scott making the motion, and well, actually, everyone's going to come back down. So this is gonna benefit in a sense the top 3, as everyone else is going to be coming down with them, except for the 31 of Gerald Campbell and the 25 of Caleb Smith.
Yeah, both those drivers trying to make a little bit of a statement of, hey, we got enough fuel. I think we can make it to the end. Everyone else, though, confident they need to be staying out. And lucky dog position, I believe, goes to Nathan Hall in the 28 machine, who was going to be trying to get some positions and will now be up in 3rd place. And we'll see if that position gets dropped back. I believe he will have to start at the end of the line.
As Maher out of the pits now, Justin Munsell, Bronson Stafford, they are all going to be the ones that are going to be the fullest to the on fuel with everyone. Gerald Campbell and Caleb Smith, the only 2 that stayed out. I believe Nathan Hall was a lucky dog. So
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if
what I
he's going
thought
to be
too.
hanging. I think he's going to be dropping back here. Well, the pace car lights are out. Maybe he was on the lead lap.
Well, the way that he was coming up, he got his lap back. The thing, though, is the fact that everyone behind the 28 machine, they pitted with 1 to go. So that's kind of giving up their position. So now they're all going to be staying practically all in line. And now this restart is going to be so different from the rest as drivers trying to get lined up. And we'll see how drivers are going to be reacting here, as it's kind of going to be a single file restart, I believe, with the fact that everyone did pit. With 1 to go.
So Nathan Hall's going to be up here in 3rd with Campbell and Smith, the front 2 cars. Then it's Munsell and Stafford. Then Tristan Maher, Robert Kenny, David Duran, Philip Scott, and then Tom Bourne. Rest of the lead lap cars: Brandon King, Alonzo Chicano, Cam Caldwell, Dylan Stipe, Derek Schilling. Mike Tellier's got the damage repaired, more than likely. We'll see how fast he'll be. Shane Terrian, he's caught back there again, but we know he can work his way through the field. And then Matt Dyer and Evan Coleman, those are your 19 cars on the lead lap. Belmonte and Travis Daly, they are off the lead lap. 1 lap down for Belmonte, 2 for Daly. And then out of the race, Spencer Hardison, Jacob Grant, Jesse Powers, Deshaun Gorham, and Gary Peck. So 21 cars on the racetrack. Caleb Smith, I don't know if he got the memo or not about coming down for this single file restart, and I don't think they're going to let him in either, as Campbell for the first time today, he is going to lead the pack to the green. Caleb Smith is going to line up to his outside, and we will get ready for more green flag action. It'll be 20 laps left in the stage, waiting for Campbell to hit the gas. Green flag back in the air. Caleb Smith got a better jump, though.
Yeah, Campbell never took off, so Smith was able to get the restart, and now will be dropping in front of Campbell. Smith does, and I think there was a little bit of communication between those drivers, understanding the situation that Caleb was going to be in. So, it worked out for those drivers up front, but now we're starting to see Bronson Stafford as well as Justin Munsell immediately try to get back up front as they're already side by side battling for third and for second place.
Lots of cars just dropping to the inside here. Tristan Maher, David Duran, they're going to get onto the apron here. So, same with playoff driver Philip Scott. They're wanting to get out of this as well. I don't know if that was a wise move by V8 of Philip Scott if he's trying to go for stage points, as he's going to fall all the way back to last on the grid right now in 19th.
Well, it's a change of thought. I mean, they are right on the edge of making it on fuel, so they're trying to go into save mode, trying to save as much fuel just in case we see all these drivers coming to the pits.
And the group has pretty much broken into 3 distinct groups. Caleb Smith leading this first group of 6 cars. Then it's Tom Bourne, Alonso Chicano, Cam Caldwell, Chicano's teammate, and Brandon King. And then a third group has formed of Dylan Stipe, Derek Schilling, and the lap machine of Justin Belmonte. And then you got Matt Dyer, Mike Tellier, Shane Terrian. That's the 4th group. And then a 5th group, which is the Maher machine, Durand, and I believe the lap machine of Philip Scott, and then, the lap machine of Travis Daly, and Philip Scott's all by himself. Well, I step away for 5 seconds, and that first group has combined, as now Stafford back to the lead with 17 now laps to go in stage 2.
Yeah, that's just the power of the draft. If you're within about 7/10, the draft will just carry you to the car in front of you, and it's just working out. As the group continues to get larger and larger, it's going to be Bronson Stafford and Munsell trying to lead both the inside and the outside group, and they're just going to continue on with this tactic, I think, from here on out. But as I say that, dropping down, it's going to be the 34 and the 61, leaving Tom Bourne now going to be lone defending on the outside.
Look who's joined up here in this group. First time we really talked about him in this lead group. That's Brandon King there in the 89, a playoff driver. This is big for him because he would love to get some stage points that he did not get in stage number 1. As he was just entering this race, he was 5th on the playoff grid. So if the round was to end today, he'd be out. So it'd be good for him to get up here and try to make some strides and get some stage points as well, as that group through third group is now combined into one big conglomerate.
Yeah, and also, I think this is great news from Mike Tellier. He's still able to utilize the draft and still on the back end of this lead pack. And just trying to hold off and hold on at this point. And if a wreck happens, try to avoid it the best that he can. But we'll wait and see if the 3's got any power to really cut through this field so far, just at the end of the line.
He's in 15th right now, just inside a second of our race leader in Bronson Stafford. Stafford got loose, and now Munsell's going to move his teammate to the extreme outside. It's Campbell trying to work on the inside line with the 34 of Robert Kenny, and Bronson has no friends on the outside, so the nature of the beast is going to hurt him, but now he'll let Tom Bourne pull up in front of him to maybe try and help his teammate get a drafting buddy and start that third line, but he's got to be careful too, because the lap machine of Belmonte, he's up there as well. Belmonte's trying to get his lap back.
Yeah, Belmonte's going to be trying to do everything he can to get it back up front. And what's interesting is the 12's been pretty passive for most of this race. And now starting to see the aggressiveness of the 12, can at least try to unlap himself the hard way, which would be the best option. Because then if a caution comes out, won't have to rely on the lucky dog position. But with all the drivers from where they're at, it's going to be pretty hard, as they're going to be getting by Travis Daly that was on the apron and got extremely close to the field. Drivers got to be wondering, hey, let's not try to wreck the front pack of the field.
The reason I went like that, I thought Daly was going to come up in front of traffic a la Kevin LePage, but he didn't, as everyone got by him okay. It was a lot closer than I thought was going to happen. So Kenny maintains the lead with Campbell pushing him. Everyone's still okay. 18 cars in this lead pack. Philip Scott, the only one on the lead lap, not with these guys.
And, a lot of these drivers we haven't seen up front. I mean, Nathan Hall, King, like you noted, also Schilling, they're all lined up. Third car on the inside, back to the sixth car on the inside. And now I'm kind of nervous in a way. We've seen Nathan Hall, was in the playoffs, but has had some pretty rough weeks lately. And also Schilling has been having a couple of rough weeks and being involved in some wrecks. So those drivers, yes, they're up front. They got to be aware, though, of where they are. 3 wide action, as we're starting to see Dyer trying to lead the way, but he just needs a little bit more help. And I don't think Tristan Maher, as well as the 24, are going to be enough to really push him along.
Riding on board with the 28 and Nathan Hall. Good to see him running good up here at the front of the field. Use the field position out of the caution period to get where he is at right now. Now third car on the inside. Here comes Munsell with a push from Caleb Smith, trying to push forward here as they're going to try and get around Robert Kenny around the hard way on the outside. Stafford and Matt Dyer, they were working that extreme high side, but now they'll slide in line behind Caleb Smith. Well, no, they got a good run off of 2. They're going to make that third line work on the outside.
I think this is what the field hates to see. Luminary leading all 3 lanes now. And now you're kind of just stuck in following one of them. It's Dyer going to be trying to push Bronson along and hopefully trying to just duck down below in front of Munsell to get a shove to possibly be up front. But now we're seeing 4 cars lined up on the outside. But for how long? As these drivers continue to battle it out on the high side, that middle lane kind of disappeared. Bronson ducking it all the way to the bottom.
Bronson had it all the way to the bottom, but now he had no help on the inside. Munsell thought about getting behind him, but he had too much of a good run through that little short bit of the front stretch, and now Munsell is going to get left out to dry on the outside by Caleb Smith. Smith had the better run. Kenny sees that, and he says, here, I'll give you help, Justin, as he'll move to the outside. Now that third line trying to form again with Tristan Maher and David Duran, but it's not working right now as Stafford tried to block the outside, instead swung back to the extreme outside and just lost the lead. That's going to really make the 17 and the 24 loose.
It's Duran in that 24 car that's looking extremely out of shape, able to hold on. But you got to be careful through the center of the corner. It's loose there, but here through the tri-oval, this is when you're at the lightest. Your car just wants to snap here at this stage. Drivers have to be careful with how they're going to be bumping one another through the tri-oval and really exiting the tri-oval.
That was just a stunning move from the 61 of Stafford. I thought he would have stayed packed on the inside. Instead, went to the extreme high side, that third lane, and then it ended up working out for him because he's 4th on that outside line as they fly down the backstretch, and now Munsell gets moved out of the way by his teammate, Robert Kenny. This is what Caleb Smith wants to see as he's on that preferred line right next to that yellow line, getting the push from Gerald Campbell.
Yeah, and Caleb Smith, he's loving it. He's finally able to be leading this charge. Munsell has been dropped back, but I think this might be just a luminary call to drop back. Shane Terry and Tom Bourne, they're already back in 17th place, which is at the end of the line of this spot, and we're starting to see Bronson Stafford. He's running in the middle with no help. He'll be starting to drop back as well as Munsell.
Drag race right at the line. Give it to Robert Kenny, as that is going to put us at 10 laps left in the stage. Kenny gets the push from Dyer, putting him on the inside now, being the lead pusher. And, it's a good thing to be in the lead, but it's also a bad thing because you're the leader of the draft. You're using the most amount of fuel in the lines. So it's kind of where you want to be, but it's kind of where you don't want to be.
Yeah, you're feeling comfortable and confident because you got a machine that can lose.
Whoa!
Oh, Bronson Stafford, what a save. And now we're going to be 2, 3 wide action, possibly 4 wide at times. But Bronson somehow saving that machine. It might be thinking, it might be safe to just drop to the back and try to recoup from there.
And that's exactly what he's doing, Sam. He dropped way back. He's now in 12th, outside of the top 10, not liking what he's seeing at the front. As I'm trying to look through this lead group, the highest of the playoff drivers is Justin Munsell in the 6th spot, now in the 5th spot, battling with Nathan Hall in that middle group. 9 laps left in the stage. Smith leading the outside line right now, with help from the 2 of Matt Dyer. Kenny on the inside with help from Gerald Campbell, and then the tandem that we have come to know here in this stage, the 17 of Tristan Maher and the 24 of David Duran.
Yeah, I mean, Tristan Maher and Durand, team of Waffle, and they're doing a great job working with one another. And you also got yourself Stipe, who's going to be joining on from DSM, who's going to be adding on. But the biggest thing is the drivers that are leading that middle groove. Caleb Smith and Matt Dyer, they have been separated from one another for the past about 10 laps. They finally found each other and now leading that outside groove and trying to stay up front and possibly put themselves in front of Robert Kenny, but they're needing a little bit more help. And it looks like Munsel's really not in a point where he feels like I need to push you in front of my teammate.
Yeah, you see him there. He's kind of just lagging back as that third line is now sunk to the inside line here as they roll through 3 and 4. Kenny and Campbell trying to get help on the inside. That's Nathan Hall trying to give the help. Also, the lucky dog from the couple cautions ago, Alonso Chicano's found himself back in the lead group, 4th on that inside line with Brandon King trying to help him. And Smith and Dyer getting the good run there through the front stretch into the turn 1. They will maintain the lead now as Caleb Smith in that Ford Mustang. But don't look now, Robert Kenny hanging in there on the inside.
Yeah, they're trying to get another great shove here coming down the backstretch to hopefully have both drivers drop down, or they'll think about just staying on the high side. But great momentum coming as Justin Munsell seeing what's going on and says, you know what, maybe I'll just come down and try to make space for myself, trying to push all 3 drivers in front. Caleb Smith finds space, and he drops down. Now Dyer's leading that outside groove.
Smith now dropping to the inside in front of Robert Kenny. Kenny moves to the outside now, kind of uncharted territory for the 34. That 31 has been pushing him for at least the last 5 laps. I think he's trying to find his teammate, but now he realizes, oh, that's Matt giving me the push. Munsel's right behind him as it is close quarter racing through this lead group. Campbell getting a little loose again. Dyer gets moved out of the way as now Luminary linked up again for the first time in at least 8 laps. It's the 34 and the 98.
It's going to be continuous shuffling going on here as we're coming to 5 laps to go for these drivers here in stage number 2. It's really go time for a lot of them, and that's why we're seeing 3 wide action. Driver that is still lingering and waiting and outside of our top 10, that's Mike Tellier, heavily damaged from a couple of cautions ago, trying to get back into this race. But this 3 machine, it is rough right now with the front end damage that he's got and no back bumper.
Well, he's hanging in there, 6th on that inside line, so he could try and get some points here at the end of the stage as we are now at 5 laps to go. Look who was getting a good run on the outside. It was Dylan Stipe getting the push from, guess who, Bronson Stafford, but Stafford said, no, I'm going to work with my teammates here as Luminary is linked up again. Look who's come up here in the top 10 now. Cam Caldwell, along with his teammate in the 95, Alonso Chicano, is Brandon King off the racing surface.
No, Brandon King cannot have this type of issue at this point. Now he's going to be dropping outside of the top 10. He was looking poised to get a top 10 finish in stage points here in stage 2, and that is not good to see for that machine.
As Smith continues to work on the inside, getting the push from Gerald Campbell. Kenny now was pushed with Campbell earlier. He's now on the outside with his teammates at Luminary. As Nathan Hall, look at that man, hanging in there in the top 5, looking to get some stage points and get a good finish in this second stage after playing the strategy. 4 laps to go in the stage. Caleb Smith trying to hang on. Lots of shuffling going to happen here in these final 4 laps.
Yeah, and points are going to be extremely important here as we're coming to the end here. Will Robert Kenny just get out of the way to give his teammate more points to be grabbed here? Shane Tarian all the way outside back in 17th place with Tom Bourne, who's in 16th. Both those drivers have looked strong, but not able to make their charge. But it looks like they're now starting to make their moves up front as they're just still lingering and waiting because it is looking like the big one is about to strike.
Cam Caldwell really loose through 3 and 4. Same for Maher coming out of 4. They save it, though, as they're going to maintain their spots. Dyer just flips spots with them. And they hit the line. 3 to go in the stage. Lap 68 on the board. 53 to go in the race. Look at Caleb Smith just hanging in there on the inside. We've talked about him all season. He's been really good in certain races, and this is the kind of track you want to be good at, a super speedway, as Chicano trying to get help from the damage machine in Mike Tellier as they're trying to move forward. Lots of shuffling down the backstretch they come. 2.5 laps left in stage 2.
The driver that's going to be making the big move, that's going to be Matt Zier, who is third or is the fourth car on the outside lane. He's in the best position to try to move himself on the high side. The issue, he's not getting any real help from the outside. They're not right on the two cars' bumper, so they're not able to even try to make a push, but they might be waiting and lingering for that moment, but here they come on the outside.
Here comes Maher with help from, actually, no, that's not Maher, that's Campbell and Caldwell, excuse me, and Chicano trying to work on that outside line, trying to push each other. Maher up there as well. Chicano's on the inside. Sorry, the cars look similar. 2 laps left in the stage. Smith all by himself right now on that outside, trying to look at the track map, how close that lap machine.
Oh no!
There we go!
Matt Zier called it that one. Mike Tellier involved as well, and due to the fact that we were so close to the end of the stage ends here.
Caleb Smith, I believe, is going to be the stage winner, as he's going to come to the line and he will win stage 2, but a big wreck on the back straightaway, middle of the pack once again, and it took out Tellier again. My goodness, Matt Dyer, he was involved as well, as Caleb Smith hits the line for the 1 to go in the stage, and he will be your stage 2 winner, but big trouble on the backstretch.
We talked about fatigue and issues for some of these drivers, and it looked like it struck Tristan Maher, who drove right into the outside wall, bounced off the wall, came down, and collected everyone, bringing out the real big one so far.
Mike Tellier, looking at him here, I think it's a little bit more damage to the rear end. We'll have to look at a replay.
It's more front end damage as well. This is looking very scary for the 3 who went nose first into the inside wall. Oh, that is not good for Mike Tellier, who is needing more points here today.
Is in a position as well to get some stage points. So you're watching here on the back straightaway, coming through the corner. Chicano slid up just a little bit, trying to see where the first thing went wrong. Trying to see from this angle, yeah, Maher got the outside wall, Matt Dyer, and then Mike Tellier. Just unfortunate happenstance. Look at Brandon King do his best to avoid that. Tellier hits the inside wall, no safer barrier where he hit. Luckily he didn't hit it too hard, as Maher really going to be the one that doesn't benefit from that. He's already checked himself out of the race, not running for the playoffs, but was poised for a good day regardless for that number 17. And that is why we're working caution number 3. Mike Tellier, Tristan Maher, and Matt Dyer. Another 3-car incident, so we're very lucky that it wasn't worse.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers are now going to be focusing up on where they're going to be placing themselves as cars are getting their service done. Once they're done, we'll talk to our stage winner, Caleb Smith here. But this is now shaking up a lot of things. I mean, you had a lot of strong cars that were involved in that wreck. Matt Dyer, who was one of the Pied Pipers of let's make the move now to go to the outside, he's now going to be damaged and not looking good. He had a teleport and still trying to get damage done. The 2 might be done for the day completely, which is going to be leaving us with 18 drivers still running. But I don't think we've got 18 strong cars that could battle for the lead.
Well, save the 3 of Mike Tellier, who no longer has a front end, so roughly 17 that can compete up there. As Belmonte is the recipient of the lucky dog. As we're back to live action here, stage 2 has come to an end. Alonso Chicano is going to lead the field back to the green, as he only took 2 tires, it looks like, they're under that set, or maybe fuel only. Might come back down to top the car off. Tellier trying to repair damage. Belmonte's in the pits. But with that said, let's talk to our stage 2 winner, the 25 of Caleb Smith. Hey, Caleb, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Man, what a drive for you through that second stage. It's unfortunate you couldn't get it under green flag conditions, but I'm sure you'll take it either way. It looks like you're going to restart 4th on this restart. Just tell me, what was it like just running up there at the front? You're leading the inside line for a majority of the end of that second stage. I'm sure it was nerve-wracking with everything happening.
Yeah, generally I'm the pusher, so being out in the lead, it was kind of different for me anyway. I tried not to go out and block the high lane, because I knew if I went out there and they were going to go around me, and that would just leave me in a hole. So I just tried to stay to the bottom, and it ended up working. So happy with the result.
Yeah, Caleb, we're starting to see your teammates kind of dropping like flies as looks like everyone is now going to be coming into the pits. But you certainly are now going to be in now a little bit of a hole as I kind of threw you off there. But how are you feeling from this point with not having that as many teammates around you? How are you feeling about this race?
Pretty good. I think we'll be fine. We just have to make it to lap 120 to make it to the end. Lot of stuff can go down, um, you know, in between the race. So we just have to make sure the car stays clean and get to the end so we can be in victory lane.
All right, it looks like instead of restarting fourth, you're going to restart as the leader here, Caleb. Congrats on the second stage win. Trying to play spoiler today. Best of luck to you in these final 50 laps, man.
Thank you.
Caleb Smith, your stage 2 winner. Yeah, I don't know if we distracted him a little bit there as everybody else went back down into the pits, saved the 51 of Evan Coleman and the 69 of Derek Schilling. So much like Nathan Hall was under the last restart, Derek Schilling going to be a little bit of a wild card here in this front few.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one with Schilling up front, but we'll see how this driver's going to go. I mean, Schilling certainly did try to get repairs done for this 69 machine, but we'll see how heavily damaged that is. We'll also keep an eye out on other drivers that are trying to get repairs done. Looks like we do have only 17 drivers out on track at the moment. It's Mike Tellier and Matt Dyer still trying to get repairs done as they sit in pit road. But yeah, no, this is going to be interesting with the fact that we did kind of throw off, Evan Coleman and Caleb Smith, those teammates, not able to really communicate if they wanted to come in, take a splash, and make sure they had extra fuel. But now things are going to get really interesting fuel mileage wise of who's going to be pushing their cars the most here and who's just going to be waiting and lingering until we have a green flag pit stop.
Well, if you're looking at it here, next green flag pit stop may happen as they're going to probably try and split these last 50 laps into 2 as well. So look around lap 95 for these guys to maybe come back down. Once again, Caleb Smith, Evan Coleman, they're the front row. Then it's Schilling, Kenny, Gerald Campbell, Justin Munsell, Cam Caldwell, Dylan Stipe, Shane Terrian, and Bronson Stafford to lead the pack to the green for the final 49 laps of this race. Green flag back in the air, 48 laps to go. Green flag, Smith and Schilling getting a good jump away. It's not the kind of thing you want because you could end up being a sitting duck and just get freight trained, but it doesn't matter because everybody else didn't really get organized.
Yeah, and really right now it looks like Munsell feeling comfortable to just drop down and follow suit. But do you want to give it an update? Mike Tellier was able to get back out on track. The only issue, he was not with the lead pack, all on his lonesome. 27 seconds back and continuing to lose time on our leaders, and most likely will go a lap down as they're side by side here for second place.
Oh, Schilling, he was trying to get behind Kenny. Thought he was going to turn him for a minute, but now Schilling going to get to be a pusher here to try and help Robert Kenny, kind of like what we saw here at the end of stage 2. Kenny trying to fight on the outside against the 25 of Caleb Smith as it's the CEM teammates on the inside of the 25 and the 51, but Robert Kenny getting a push from an unlikely source, the 69 of Derek Schilling, as they still remain side by side in the 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is a great sign for Schilling, who was involved in that last accident. This was damaged, able to get that damage repaired, and still running well for the 69 machine. The question is, once you see a lot of the other drivers that have been really contending up front, how well will the 69 be able to hold off as Robert Kenny ducks it low, leading the inside?
Robert Kenny loving where he's going right now with this lead. Just unfortunate he's no longer in the playoff picture. At least that I would think that's his perspective right now, but he'd love to go out and get a win here tonight if he can get it done, as Campbell disappeared for a minute, now back into the picture. Schilling caught in the sucker hole as the outside line starting to form. Justin Munsell and a guy we haven't really seen up here at the front a lot today, Shane Terrian, giving the good push to Munsell here as it's going to leave Brandon King on the outside line.
Yeah, Shane Terrian kind of has been lingering around 15th place all race long practically, and now it's deciding. It's now that we're racing to the end of this thing, let's get up front, stay up front, show what speed we have. But now with the fact that we only got 3 luminary guys up front, you got Bronson Stafford back in 13th place and Tom Horn back in 17th. Both those drivers expecting them to make their hard pushes to the front. I'm also watching out for Philip Scott in the 8. Really hasn't shown any speed, but still back here and could try to hitch a ride with a 61 whenever he feels like moving forward.
As Munsell now retakes the lead, Kenny trying to get the good run on the slingshot around his teammate, but no one back there to help him as the other two of Caleb Smith and Brandon King, they're side by side. But look at Kenny trying to get ahead of his teammates here. Brandon King just a little too far back to try and give him some help. And now Kenny's not going to be able to slide back behind his teammate in Tarian because here comes Smith to clear back up to the inside.
Yeah, and Caleb Smith had to try to break up. Robert Kenny trying to come down and be more of a wall. So the 25 could not get a win here. But, I mean, Carlos, here on FRN, we've watched Super Speedway racing before. We have a Super Speedway league that we broadcast on Wednesday nights. And, you know, we've seen the fact that even if you look like you're leading this race here for most of the race, it's not over until that white flag is shown and whoever's crossing the line. Because, honestly, entering the Tri-Oval, we could lose everyone that is running up front, and someone back in about 15th place could find themselves winning this thing.
I mean, we've seen it in the real side of NASCAR. I mean, the name of James Buescher comes to mind, of cars wrecking on the last lap, and of course that happening at Daytona way back in the day now. And then you see it on the iRacing sim as well. Just anything can happen at a super speedway. It's a matter of when it will happen, as we've seen 2 wrecks today. We'll give you a little bit of a race recap here. 2 cautions, 4 wrecks, 1 for just a stage break, as Kenny nearly brought one out there, nearly getting into Caleb Smith, as the Smith is trying to break up the luminary train here, as so is Brandon King as well on the high side. But those 2 wrecks we've had today, just a pair of 3-car incidents. So we haven't really seen the big one yet, but it is looming, as they are going to go 3 wide for the lead here. Look who it is on the outside. 89 orange car, Brandon King leading that outside groove.
Yeah, Brandon King certainly coming with a head of steam right there and trying to do everything he can. And no!
He turned his teammate. There's the big one.
Munsell involved. Bronson Stafford, Shane Tarian. Those were some of our favorites.
All the luminary guys.
Robert Kenny. That's why you don't push in the corners, folks. It's dangerous. Teammates causing the big one. And did Brandon King get through? I'm trying to rewatch.
No, he didn't.
Oh, my goodness. So many drivers tried their best. But everyone that was leading up front practically involved in this thing. Caleb Smith almost got out scot-free, but Kenny got involved with him. Almost everyone involved in this. I think also Philip Scott, blown motor for himself. Bronson Stafford has a blown motor.
Oh, my God.
And the car that's nowhere to be seen because he was all in his lonesome, Mike Tellier, could be finding himself with an extra 5 positions. And he was just chugging along, trying to get damage repair earlier on. And now you question, who will be left here running?
Well, just looking at it, Cam Caldwell, Derek Schilling, Bronson Stafford, Robert Kenny, of course. Brandon King almost had it missed. He was leading on the outside line and just got hooked by the spinning 98, as you're going to see here on this replay. Oh, just a mess of cars that got involved. A lot of them playoff drivers, if not half of the playoff drivers involved in this one. You're going to watch here, coming on our drone cam, how this just spilled out.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing, right, of drivers that are trying and know that they've got fast cars, trying to work their way through traffic. That was what Shane Tarian was trying to do, as well as Bronson Stafford, and also all the other drivers that were involved in this. I mean, Caldwell, that 10 machine wasn't up front a lot, but certainly had some speed to show. Involved and caught up in this. King still involved, but here comes our front runners. We'll see who's going to be staying a little bit longer to try to get some damage repair, as almost everyone involved in this big one.
We're going to take a couple more looks at this, but first, I would be remiss if I didn't do this. We're going to ride on board with the 20 of Dylan Stipe. Watch him navigate his way through this wreck, as he was way on the inside, watching everyone fly by him. Sees Caldwell go by, and everybody missed him.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly try not to be involved in these things. Man, what a... Whew.
I know, right? What a drive.
I mean, you just cannot. Sometimes you just hope that you can get through there cleanly and you get those types of runs. Drivers coming out of the pits. Evan Coleman leading that group. Stipe, Campbell, David Durand, Mike Tellier. Those are your top 5 drivers that are not or did not take any type of repairs or stayed in the pits for a little bit longer. But man, our whole entire front 10 completely shaken up from what it was for most of this race. And that's what Talladega brings you, is the unknown of who can really make it here to the end.
Oh my goodness, we're watching the wreck one more time. Bronson Stafford almost had it missed, but a couple cars flying down off the racing surface just took him out of it. So that's why we're working caution number 4. Lap 80 on the board right now. And my goodness, you weren't kidding about this top 10. It looks very different from what we've seen so far. Not a single, outside of Tom Bourne, not a single luminary driver in that top 10.
Yeah, it is completely different. It looks like Robert Kenny able to get that car fired up, which leaves us with 12 drivers that are still running and on course. Everyone else still on pit road trying to get damage repairs. Right now, 11 drivers are still are lined up at the moment as Kenny will try to catch up. But Evan Coleman leading the way with Stipe. Mike Tellier in 5th place. Like, he was damaged earlier, thought his race was over, but it is not over until the very end. For a lot of these drivers, it could be their first win of the season. For others, looking for more wins and possibly clinches into battling for a championship. Philip Scott, he's still in running somehow in this 8 machine. Thought his day was done with some of the smoke that was piling out of that machine, but able to continue running on. Whew.
You know, it's kind of safe to say, this is, I know going into super speedway, it is truly anyone's race, but now it really is. Because the big competition, it's no secret that Luminary was favored in this race. And now they only got really, essentially, one clean car remaining. It's really anyone's race now for the taking, and especially for non-playoff drivers. The only playoff drivers still in contention, of course, Dylan Stipe on the outside in 2nd, Mike Tellier, damaged goods in 5th, and then Tom Bourne in 9th, and then Philip Scott, he's got damaged car in 10th, and then, Kenny's still hanging in, or no, Kenny's not in the playoffs, but anyway, Munsel's back out there, and so is Brandon King, but who knows the level of damage on those machines. So we might be seeing, unless Dylan Stipe pulls it off today, we might be seeing just a non-playoff driver once again pick up a victory like Jacob Grant did last week at Atlanta.
Making points and those stage points, so much more important if you were able to get them. This is certainly going to be something interesting to watch. Derek Schilling, just for updates, as well as Codwell, have officially DNF'd. They will not be getting back out there on track. The cars are getting lined up and ready to go. Carlos, looking at some of the cars that are still here and not damaged, I'm putting my money right now on Evan Coleman as well as David Durand. They're looking really good right now to be able to finish out this race. But like I said, they're not playoff drivers. They are going to be spoilers here. But this was what the sense of Talladega brings, the unknown and the possibility of your whole entire fight for the championship up in smoke before you even get to a final chance next week.
Well, Bronson Stafford likely going to finish out of this race in the 17th position unless he returns to the racetrack. He won the first stage, so he may be able, unless Dylan Stipe wins, he may be able to hang on to the top of the playoff grid. It's going to be a lot of shaking up, and we're going to have to watch throughout the week to see how, after this race, see how the points are going to play out going into Chicago next week. Evan Coleman, Dylan Stipe, and Gerald Campbell, David Durand, and Mike Tellier. That's your top 5. We still got business to be settled here under the Alabama sun. 39 laps left in this race as Evan Coleman is on the gas, green flag back in the air. He is raring to go. 14 cars on the lead lap. Taking the green flag here as Campbell will give the push to the playoff driver Stipe to try and run down the 51 and maybe put him out of the move as a sitting duck.
Might be wondering, where has Evan Coleman been all race? Well, he's been around that 14th place almost all race long. and now finds himself up front. Clean machine and around a lot of wounded cars, but getting a great shove right now by Gerald Campbell on the outside. Stipe and a lot more other cars trying to stay in line. It's really the question of if your car isn't damaged, you can really push a car and get them going.
Alonso Chicano had a really, really quick move there to the inside. Now going to try and work with the 31 and the 51. Nathan Hall hanging in there on the inside as well. Give a call to that green number 28 hanging in there. Philip Scott, outside of Dylan Stipe, is the second highest running playoff driver up there in second. So if he can just hang on today and not get into any more trouble, he's going to have a good points paying day, especially if he can get a top 5 or a top 10.
Yeah, I mean, most of the cars that were caught up in that wreck were drivers that I was thinking had stable machines. A handful of the drivers, well, I should say about 3 of them that are up front, I am very concerned about. Gerald Campbell, we've seen him get a little bit out of shape here or there. We've seen also Duran get out of shape, and I am not really sure how Nathan Hall is going to be consumed with the drivers that are up front, how well he's going to be doing with the drivers around him. The loose sensation certainly has not completely gone away for these drivers, and the way that they are pinching and not really giving any space to Campbell just like that. I mean, these drivers, yes, we've already seen the big one really, but I don't think we're done with cautions just because of how loose these drivers have been in the center of the corner and through the trioval.
Well, it's also a case of a lot of these drivers, they're in uncharted waters right now. You don't typically see Nathan Hall up at the front. Evan Coleman, he was up at the front in other races, but then would fall by the wayside later on. Same for the Caleb Smith machine. Guys that are experienced at being at the front, Dylan Stipe, he's experienced. David Durand, he's been up at the front a lot. But I'm also going to say for Gerald Campbell, he's experienced at the front. I've called many a race for him in other leagues, and he knows how to run at the front, especially at these super speedways, whether he be in a cup car or a truck.
And drivers that are just trying to gain positions, help themselves out. Matt Dyer, after over almost 15 minutes of repairs, he's finally got his car repaired. He's working with Shane Tarian and Brandon King, but they are so far back and extremely off the pace from what our front pack is doing.
Mike Tellier, he has lost this lead group, so that leaves us with 11 drivers in the lead pack. And I'm trying to do the quick math here. Just 3 of them are in the playoffs. That being Dylan Stipe, Tom Bourne, and Philip Scott. 8 of them are all just gunning for bragging rights. As Evan Coleman, he is leading that inside line. Still a long way to go, folks. 35 laps to go at the line. Tom Bourne trying to make moves on the outside. As they hit the line, lap 86 on the board. We'll take another break. We'll be right back here on the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the Clutch Drop Cup Series from Talladega. Back here at the Talladega Super Speedway, Evan Coleman, Dylan Stipe running up at the front, 1 and 2. Gerald Campbell up there in third, trying to hang in there. If you're just joining us, you've been missed a lot of good action here today at the Talladega Super Speedway here on the Clutch Drop Cup Series. 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide action throughout this one, and we are down to our top 11, just hanging in there in this race. Carlos Zimmerman, Sam Dyer with you, been with you for most of this season throughout, as it's just going to get hairier next week when we head to Chicagoland. We'll add a new month to that on January 31st, excuse me, as David Duran and others trying to make moves there. That we're in Chicagoland, and then we wrap up the season on the big game Sunday, if you will. The big game opponents have just been decided, but we'll have our own opponents of our own. The top 4 in the playoffs will duel it out at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That happening on February 7th, as Dylan Stipe getting a good push here. 31 laps left in this one.
Yeah, we had a bunch of cars that have been heavily damaged try to come back into this race. Matt Zier was one of those drivers trying to come back, just trying to grab as many points as possible, try to hurt some of the drivers that already are out of this race and just looking for positions. Got spun by Mike Tellier while he was back about, I think they were about 15 seconds back from the leaders. And now his day officially done. He is now officially DNF. Just frustration for a lot of these drivers that were just looking for decent days, but there's still 3 wide action. And for the lead pack, they've got to be a little bit concerned. We were talking about how Tom Bourne, the only driver that was up there in the top 10 of the Luminary drivers. Now you can throw in Robert Kenny. Luminary is not completely out of this thing, and 2 of the fastest drivers during stage 1, they are here, and they are here to be making a move.
As we have 16 cars still in this race, 15 on the racetrack. Bronson Stafford still in the pits, trying to repair as much damage as he can. He can move if he returns to the racetrack, he can be as high as 16th, but that is all he's going to be able to get. As Evan Coleman and Gerald Campbell, they're running still good on that inside with help from an unlikely source in Nathan Hall. What a drive for that number 28. Took him as a dark horse right now to try and go out and win this thing. A lot of drivers we have up here we never would have thought that could have had an opportunity to win these races, as they're going to try and play spoiler today for the 3 playoff drivers that remain in this lead group.
Yeah, and 2 of those 3 were drivers I talked about at the beginning of the broadcast. They had not won it all this season, that being Stipe as well as Scott, looking for their first win and would be a ticket punched to battle it out for a championship at Charlotte. But right now, they've got to try to take that away from Tom Bourne and the rest of the very hungry drivers in this front pack.
As the side-by-side action continues, 30 laps left. And you got to think, Sam, a lot of these guys, as Durand is in the wall, I think he blew a tire.
Blew a tire or even got shoved up into the wall, possibly. I think he might have gotten hit. Yeah, a little bit of contact from the 95 into the 24. And that's what got him out of this thing, as Munsell now going to be lapped down again for the 98 machine, but that's going to scatter up our front back. That outside groove that was getting so lined up and about to make a huge charge, they now got to reset and try it again, as Evan Coleman and Gerald Campbell still holding strong on the inside.
As I was gonna say before that happened with Durand, and now that takes Durand out of the picture. Now that just leaves 10 cars in this lead group, 1 less for these playoff drivers to have to worry about. What I was going to say was, we're on about lap 13. I'd be expecting these guys to come in within the next 10 laps for the final round of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see when they decide to come in about. 7 laps, that's going to be putting themselves, and they should be good to make it from there on out. But these front drivers, I mean, you talked about it, uncharted territories that they have been really in for some of these drivers. Others, they've been up front all race long. It's now of figuring out who are your allies, partners to work with, and who's going to recognize you got to. I mean, once it's about 3 laps to go, you work with anyone that you can get help with. Except for if you're in the playoffs, then you're trying to find as many friends as possible. Now that outside groove, 4 cars strong, going to be trying to make their way forward, but they got to get lined up. They are just scattering and not able to hold the line, and that is the biggest issue for that outside groove.
Inside right now is Evan Coleman, Gerald Campbell, Dylan Stipe, Nathan Hall, Justin Belmonte, now Alonzo Chicano, and Philip Scott for a moment. He'll move to the outside. Belmonte trying to hang on, got no friends, though he might end up losing the draft if he's not careful. That outside, though, Tom Bourne, Robert Kenny, and Caleb Smith. A lot of our front runners today as Scott dives down in front of Belmonte to try and help him out as the battling continues. And now it's Alonzo Chicano leading that outside groove with 27 to go.
Oh, my goodness. These drivers going to be putting themselves in a lot of heartache here. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I've been just noticing is holding a line has been the hardest thing for some of these drivers. and it's hurting their lines. To the outside line, Chicano is struggling to just hold a line in general. And now everyone's kind of just scattering and trying to figure out how to get by the 95 machine, and then they'll try to cycle it out. And I think that's why we're seeing Tom Bourne and others for the last couple of laps trying to deke out the 95 to get past them, because they're not a fan of the way that he is running and leading that outside.
As Evan Coleman and Gerald Campbell continuing to lead here. Man, what it would be for Evan Coleman to finally get the monkey off the back and take a victory here tonight, as Nathan Hall is now going to be leading the outside there, or is Chicano going to move him out of the way? That's really close, but they keep it together on the outside. The Chicano trying to move the 28 back. I don't know what exactly the mindset is out of that 95 right now.
Well, here's the thing, though. If Nathan Hall drops back, he's going to have his teammate of the 12, Justin Belmonte, and those NSM drivers are going to try to work with each other to possibly get themselves back up front, as Caleb Smith gets a little bit out of sequence, goes to the apron, able to hold on. But this is nerve-wracking to watch. 10 drivers here in this front pack, all in line, and you can tell they're all getting single-filed up. Pit stops about to go down for all of them.
At lap 20, with 25 laps to go, lap 96 on the board, that might be the go time, and that should get everybody to the end of this thing. Now here's the question. Will everybody come down at one time to try and remain in one group? And that's looking like that's what it's going to be. Everyone going to come down at the same time, as they're all on the inside line, and none of them make the motion yet.
No, they've got to make sure that they're at least 20 to 22 laps to go. So that's another about 2 to 3 laps that these drivers need to push themselves, and they can go that far. Any further than that, though, they're going to make sure that they're good just in case a green-white checker comes out, but I don't know if they've got enough fuel to make it that far, as now it's going to be the luminary drivers of Robert Kenny and Sam Bourne to the outside, trying to find any help that's going to follow them. Justin Belmonte looks like he'll follow. Philip Scott, maybe? Nope. Going to be ducked to the inside, and now it's just frustrating because everyone saw how dominant Luminary was at the start, and who's going to be following drivers that you know that were just so good unless they're pushing you?
As you just continue to watch these guys fan out, as they're going to come into the line, put lap 98 on the board, 23 to go. Again, to give a good quick race recap, about half the field is in the garage area right now. 16th on back is out of the race. 15 cars on the racetrack, 2 of them in the pits, Matt Dyer and Bronson Stafford. As I'm noticing, turn 1 and most of turn 2 kind of shaded there, so a little bit more grip here, but grip not as reliable at Talladega compared to maybe other tracks, so it doesn't matter with just the high speeds. As I'm watching the telemetry here, entering 201 miles an hour into the corner, so much speed. So they're going to be single filed up once again. We'll see if they come down this time. If not, the window will open this next time by.
Yeah, I mean, the track temp is certainly something to be watching about for these drivers if shade comes in. The track temp at the moment is 109 degrees. It is hot. It is slick. And that's why we're starting to see a lot of these drivers in these corners get so loose, is because of how hot the track is. But certainly everyone's just trying to stay single-filed out, as believe if we're going to see any drivers that feel like, hey, they can pit early and don't think that we're going to be going to a green-white checkered, this is the lap that they'll be coming in.
As we're nearing that lap 100 mark, the go time of this race is now. You can call it the witching hour, if you will, of this race, where a win can turn into a loss can turn into a win. Let's see who it's going to be. It's going to be someone in this top 10, regardless of how the rest of this race plays out, as they're going to wait another time by. And I think a couple of them thought about it, but then they pulled back.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that if you cannot come down with just two of you, you got to come down with at least 3 to 4 drivers, and there's only 10 drivers in this pack. So everyone's going to have to make the same choice of, we're going this time or are we not going this time? And also, pit road is about this money stop is going to be so important, because as long as no caution comes out, this stop, they are most likely are not going to come out all together. There is probably going to be about 3 to 4 groups that come out, just because of the way that drivers are going to be entering, exiting pit road. And if anyone slides while trying to get into their box, that's going to be losing and costing them time and a potential chance for a win.
As here we go. Some have elected to come in. A couple of them stayed out. Evan Coleman and
Mike went
Campbell.
over. He missed his pit lane, and now he went through the grass, enters in. We'll see if a penalty is given to the 20 machine, and this is catastrophic for one of our playoff drivers.
He's back in the pit lane, but we'll see if they penalize him as he'll move into his pit stall. 6 cars of the lead pack decided to pit, so split it in half, if you will. As Stipe, he is in getting his service. Philip Scott, Alonso Chicano, Tom Bourne, Justin Belmonte, and Nathan Hall has already dropped it, and he's coming back out, and it looks like they're going to get Stipe.
And now our front three are 4 drivers. They're not really in sync as well as I thought they were going to be, but here comes Evan Coleman coming in, all 4 drivers. And this time, we got a group of 6, got a group of 4. Who's going to have the most speed? Robert Kenny coming in with a lot of speed. And oh no, Robert Kenny might have been caught speeding with how fast he was coming in.
Coleman almost spun the tires just trying to get in here, as well as trying to see here. Dylan Stipe still in his pit stall as lap machines trying to get stuff. Evan Coleman, he slid through his box. So did Caleb Smith.
Yeah, and then Stipe got caught for speeding, and also might have been some damage. That 20 machine now going to be at 20 and 13th place for the 20, and luckily he's not a lap down, but certainly the pace is going to be picking up. As right now our front 2, Gerald Campbell and Robert Kenny, they were able to get out with one another. Evan Coleman with that slip up, as well as Caleb Smith. They're going to be losing speed, but here comes the drivers that are already up to speed. Tom Bourne has a little bit of a gap over himself and the 95 and the 12 that are pretty close to one another. They can get attached and slowly catch up to Tom Bourne. Nathan Hall and Philip Scott there already tandemed up and trying to catch up to the drivers in front of them. This is the disadvantage of how small these groups are, is that if you make a mistake, you're a sitting duck. Tom Bourne might have had too good of a stop with the fact that he is so far ahead of everyone else.
But with that happening, it is going to allow Robert Kenny and Gerald Campbell to try and get back up to full power. Evan Coleman, he's hanging in there in 3rd, but he'll eventually get caught by Tom Bourne. But if it's in the best interest of Bourne, link up and try to run down the top 2.
I mean, Chicano already feeling the pressure and going to be trying to make the pass here on the 54. Going to be making Tom Bourne the pusher of this group. But we've already seen Chicano having issues with leading groups and not able to really hold a line. And I think this could be an issue for these drivers that are 4.4 seconds back. They need to get in a line, get this group going if they are going to have a chance at our front 2, who are just continuously staying in line. And it's looking like Robert Kenny, Gerald Campbell, they're doing a great job so far.
They are staying lined up. That has made the gap back to Alonso Chicano 4.4 seconds. So that second group, despite being a bigger group, they have got to get it together. And that's just a testament to the inexperience of some of these drivers potentially with that happening. And I think Tom Bourne is realizing it too. They need to really straighten it out, or they're never going to run down Robert Kenny and Gerald Campbell.
They're 4.6 seconds, so they've gained at least a 10th. But they're 3 wide right now in this group. They need to be, I mean, if they're double wide, good enough. They are at least moving forward. They're gaining about a 10th, but a 10th a lap. That's not going to be enough. They're going to be catching up to these drivers, because then they're not going to catch the draft until maybe the last lap. And by that point, I don't think they're going to be fast enough. As Chicano deciding to completely block drivers for some reason. You got to be careful. I don't know what they're thinking right now. A caution might help, but it also might wreck your car even more.
I don't understand it. As the 3 of this group now, I think have figured it out, and they realize we just need to stay lined up here. Let's go run down the 2 of them, as now they've settled it out double file. If they keep going side by side, it's just going to be hurting them in the long run of this thing.
I mean, they're okay right now. If they're lined up like they are, they should be fine. They should be trying to catch up, but they have already lost over 5/10 with all the shuffling. Oh, gets into Smith. And oh my goodness. That was what I'm talking about. Hall has been just at times making those mistakes and hurting Coleman. It does. The driver that was looking the cleanest out of everyone. Now he gets some of his damage. And now they're back to side-by-side racing, losing time. This is a 2-horse race. We'll see what happens here.
There's 16 laps to go, so there is time to make it happen and try to run down the top 2. Evan Coleman may have just lost his chance at getting a victory. He was leading a lot of this third and final stage. Now there's only one car left on that outside line. That's Caleb Smith. He's hanging in there, though, on that outside. Let's see if they can get it lined up here. I don't know. It's just that front two.
They're losing too much time. They've already lost a second with being like the way they've been driving. It's ridiculous what we're seeing right now. They are a bigger group. They should be more organized. And I get that there are some machines that are damaged, but you guys should be able to catch up to Robert Kenny and Gerald Campbell because they were involved in that giant big one. They haven't really gotten any real damage repaired, but now they've got Stipe, who Stipe's another driver that has gotten repairs done, not as heavily damaged. This 20 machine is just going to be helping them out. And Evan Coleman officially DNF'd, it looked like, or he's losing connection. I think he might be blinking.
Well, regardless, it's going to likely put him back into the 15th position, a non-playoff driver in Evan Coleman, but definitely was poised to try and go for a win. And I'm watching the time here. Alonso Chicano has now started to dwindle that down. They got it down 3/10, but now they're losing some time again because Caleb Smith dived back to the outside.
Yeah, and I think it's just a picking of, hey, I want to lead. No, I want to lead. Hey, you're not doing a great job. I know I can do a better job. And here comes Tom Bourne. He's might be fed up, going to be following Caleb Smith. And now these drivers going to be trying to make a move on the outside. But they're 5 seconds back. When they all were together 3 wide at one time, they were 4.2 seconds back. They've lost the full second. They have not gained any of it back here as the laps continue to dwindle away.
I think Tom Bourne sees the writing on the wall and saying, we need to go, guys, as it's 13 laps to go, as Bourne is trying to push Smith. They're 2 by 2, door to door. Chicano just trying to slow down to 25. I don't understand this mindset with some of these guys. Again, it's a callback to experience, lack of experience at super speedways for some of these guys, but I don't get it. It's almost frustrating. Not from a driver standpoint, from a broadcaster standpoint too. You know what they need to do, but they're not doing it.
They just need to get in line, follow each other, be a train. They'll catch up to them. The more cars that are in line, the faster you're going to go. But if you're side by side, you're bogging each other down, and you're just kind of being a parachute to one another. You're not helping cut the wind at all, and it's so frustrating. They're running almost about a half a tenth off of what the leaders are, and it's just 3 cars in line for our leaders that are just pulling away each and every lap, and it's not even close with how much faster they're running.
You would think that a bigger pack would work well together, and before long, this is going to turn into a bigger pack because they're running up on some lap traffic here as the gap continues to widen as the two are getting away. Caleb Smith still trying to lead that outside group. I'm not convinced that Chicano, man, there may be a wreck in this second group before long.
They're going to go 3 wide.
That might be as Chicano trying to suck and get the side draft off of Smith. I don't get it. I really don't.
I mean, he's trying to use the side draft, right? But here's the thing. The thing about side drafting is it's not helping both drivers. Tom Bourne phases through, somehow staying alive as Tom Bourne when he should have died there. Oh, my goodness. As we're coming closer to 10 laps to go. That
no
second
yellow.
Group. No, we wrecked onto the apron, so no yellow is going to be coming out. But now Tom and Chicano, they're going to be a 2-car tandem. The drivers behind them, too damaged to even help. And now they're scattered, and it's just going to be Robert Kenny and Campbell. They've got now a 5-car group to work with. But here's the thing. It's a damaged lap car group that they're trying to cut their way through.
Campbell moves to the inside. Kenny getting help from Stipe on the outside. As that Smith car, his day likely coming to an end now with that happening, as these guys are now broken up a bit, 2 by 2 by 2 for Kenny and Campbell. It's allowed Chicano and Bourne to try and close the gap down a little bit, but with that wreck happening, it slowed them down so much that it might be insurmountable at this point. They're going to need a yellow to come out.
Yeah, I mean, right now you've got Gerald Campbell, Robert Kenny, and Stipe that are trying to work with one another while also trying to work with the lap cars. And you went from a 6-car, almost a 7-car group with Tom Bourne, Chicano, and the rest of that group. They are now absolutely demoralized because now they're so split up and they are not able to utilize their draft to the fullest potential now. And they're going to be running, they're still running at over almost a tenth off of what the leaders are, and they're battling side by side. It's just the fact that they've been staying so lined up and working with one another and not trying to hurt each other with side drafting.
Well, there's still the leaders at the front. They're still running side by side. Now the leaders are now 1-2 with Stipe on the outside. The draft though is hanging in there for Mike Tellier, David Durand, and Brandon King. So they're going to try and maybe slow down these two before long. I just think that gap back to Chicano and Bourne, it is just way too much to overcome at this stage of the race with 9 laps to go. It's going to take a miracle for them to get back into this thing, potentially a last lap crash between our two leaders, but with the experience between the two, I don't see that happening as it's 9 laps to go, 8 at the line.
Philip Scott needs every single point that he can grab here. He needs the best finish here at Talladega. This 8 machine came in 8th in points, was 25 points back on Tom Bourne for just trying to get into our final 4 points-wise coming into this race. And really, right now, Philip Scott needs to get every single position that he can get. Luckily, he's around people, but Caleb Smith, he gets payback, and he wrecks the back half of the field. We might be getting yellow.
Yellow is out. Caleb Smith. Philip Scott, one of the playoff drivers, spun as well. Justin Belmonte as also involved in that. Caution flies, and that brings the field all back together.
Wow. Caleb Smith, he's already left. He knew what he did. Most likely will be parked for next week as well for the 25 machine. Who knows if he'll be taken out of the whole entire rest of the season, as it's going to be 2 more races after this. But
wow,
Gerald Campbell and Robert Kenny had this race won. And now we try again. And this time around, we'll see who has damage and who doesn't, because what the heck is going on?
Watch here on this replay. Caleb Smith slows down. Just took him out. Just took Belmonte out. Nathan Hall as well.
I mean, this all started back. If you go back to lap 109, coming to 110, that's when Caleb Smith got contacted and was wrecked by Belmonte, and this was retaliation because of that. And it was those drivers that were just battling so hard. And it was a lot of it was the fact that no one was able to hold a line, so they were bumping off one another, struggling just to hold on. And Caleb Smith frustrated. I think all of CEM was kind of frustrated at that point, because that was the last CEM member that was not wrecked out by someone. And now finally out of this.
Well, to say the least, it changes everything. It brings the top 7 all back together. As Kenny and nearly faked out Campbell coming into the pits. It brings Chicano, Bourne, Belmonte, Nathan Hall, and Scott back into the equation. You know who it also puts back in? It puts Dylan Stipe back in the picture as well. He's a lucky dog. He's going to start tail end, but he's back in the picture as well.
Yeah, and probably one of the cleanest cars out here besides Robert Kenny and Gerald Campbell. I think those are the drivers to be watching out for. We'll see if any other retaliations happen. But, I mean, re-looking back at the whole entire situation there that we just saw with Caleb Smith, it should not have happened at all. That is not the way that ever should have happened. But we saw there when throughout those final 10 laps before this incident happened, Caleb Smith, he got taken out by Belmonte, and then also his teammate was taken out by Nathan Hall, and both those drivers, I believe, yeah, they are teammates of NSM. So just frustration was building up, and finally was just snap at that moment.
So Robert Kenny, Alonzo Chicano, Gerald Campbell, Tom Bourne, Philip Scott, Nathan Hall, Justin Belmonte, and Dylan Stipe are going to get back onto the lead lap here for these final few laps. Belmonte maybe extended stay in pits, so his day might be over. So, oh my goodness, it just puts a whole monkey wrench into everything.
Yeah, it really does, because now we got to rethink of, okay, who has a clean car, who can make a run here. I believe Tom Bourne got repairs done. But Tom Bourne is so lucky that he was not absolutely taken out by Caleb Smith's first time that he got spun out by Belmonte, and that 54 machine, there might be some luck there, but certainly I don't think we're done with Rex just yet, just based on how the drivers have looked so loose and really kind of out of control at times. we are most likely going to see more carnage happen, and who knows if we'll be seeing a playoff driver get a win. But this certainly resets things, leaving us with a total of 11 drivers that should be on the lead lap, as Brandon King going to be taking the wave around. And King's a driver that has had a lot of front end damage, struggling to keep up pace wise. This gives Duran now a chance, as that 24 car got shuffled out of the draft at one point. Now the 24 car has a chance here. And we'll see if Mike Tellier has any speed to try to gain any points back.
And here's the thing, though, for these wave around guys, they're going to be catching up here at full speed. And the only cars they need to get by are two luminary drivers in Shane Terrian and Justin Munsell. So they're the only two cars they need to worry about because they're going to be starting tail end. So they might be able to get into the picture here as they will take the wave around, and we have one to go. 4 laps to try and settle it. Chicano trying to figure out where to go. It looks like Kenny has elected to roll with the outside line. Smart move because he'll have his temerate right behind him.
He's got 2 teammates. He's got Shane Terrian as well up there in the brutally destroyed 83 machine. First of the cars that are 2 laps down, and it's going to be in 12th place. But this race is not completely over just yet. And here we go. This is going to be chaotic.
And that's just saying the least. We've seen just about everything in this race. A couple 3-car incidents to open up the caution periods outside of the stage break caution. And then a debacle at the front between Luminary. Robert Kenny accidentally getting into his teammate Justin Munsell and Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford, all those guys getting involved in everything. Stafford's actually returned to the racetrack, 37 laps down in the 16th position, likely going to be where he stays with the amount of time we have left in this race. So the remaining drivers still in it. Chicano, Robert Kenny is going to lead to the green here. Gerald Campbell, Tom Bourne, a playoff driver, the highest of them. Then it's Nathan Hall, Dylan Stipe, back on the lead lap, getting the lucky dog, Philip Scott. And then the wave around machines of Mike Tellier, David Durand, and Brandon King. Oh boy, Sam, it's going to get wild here in a bit. Oh my gosh.
Stipe's got to figure out how to get by Justin Belmonte. That's the only car. And then he's also got to worry about Shane Terrian. He's going to be low on power. But this is going to be spicy on how this is going to go. The potential of one of our playoff drivers that are still up here for a chance to lock themselves into the championship race for the Final 4. Will it be Stipe? Could it be Tom Bourne or even Philip Scott? Or will it be a non-playoff driver? As green flag up in the air, Robert Kenny, Tom Bourne already taking off and trying to get as much group space as possible. But here comes that 95 and the 31.
Chicano and Campbell, they're going to link up. It's going to be 2-car tandeming through this corner to see who's going to try and win this thing, as Nathan Hall doesn't have a lot of friends, as Terrian came right down in front of Munsell, his teammate. That's going to allow Dylan Stipe to clear the traffic. Same for Philip Scott.
As right now, Stipe's got to find the draft of someone and try to utilize it to get it up front and not just let it become a 2-car tandem.
It's going to be Hall. It's going to be Hall. And never mind. He says no. Hall's going to be the pusher here. Stipe with a lot of speed. When they come around, it'll be 3 laps to settle it. 7 cars with a chance to win this thing, as Bourne is going to leave his teammate out to dry. It's going to allow Stipe to move to the outside, as the leader is Alonso Chicano, one of the newcomers into the Clutch Drop Cup Series, with Gerald Campbell pushing in second.
Alonso, with first race that he was here, got a top 3 finish, trying to do it again, this time possibly stealing a win away from some of these playoff drivers. Chaos, teammates taking each other out earlier on, and now finding ourselves with a lot of drivers we haven't seen a lot up front, but certainly a chance to win here, as now we'll wait and see. Cars staying in line. The question of, will Stipe and Bourne have to work together to get past the front 2, because it looks like the 31 and the 95 are not going to be giving any type of room to anyone behind them.
The Luminary guys, they've been separated. Dylan Stipe, good working relationship with those guys, so let's see if he tries to move on up. Philip Scott kind of losing the draft, so he might be out of contention for the win, but still a good point stay regardless for that number 8 of Philip Scott, who entered 8th in points. 2 laps to go. Alonso Chicano hanging on to that lead as Nathan Hall nearly got into Robert Kenny, but they settle it out and they keep it clean and green. When they hit the line, next flag ends the race. Chicano trying to hang on. Bourne, he's in 3rd. Dylan Stipe in 4th. Kenny kind of on an island of his own right now. On the outside line, Mike Tellier and David Duran, they're trying to link up with their damage machines to try and be a factor, but I don't know if it's going to work for them, as when they come around, the white flag will be in the air. 1 lap to go at Talladega, the 95 in front.
Who's going to make that last move, really? That is the question, because you know they're going to be coming out of 4, most likely still in line, and then finally making the charge. But someone's going to have to make that move. Is it going to be Bourne? Is it going to be Stipe? But we're waiting to see. But Robert Kenny just looming and waiting. It's going to be Hall. Kenny says no to Hall.
No.
Ducks down low. And Hall is getting no friends now after some of the stuff that he's done throughout the season. So now we're starting to see the drivers up front. It's 4 cars that are looking like the favorites. Philip Scott getting a huge push by Bronson Stafford. And now we find ourselves with a total of 7 drivers, a chance to possibly win this race as they're coming out of 4.
They keep it single file. Chicano gives himself a little bit of a gap, but that's going to look Bourne gets hurt.
Stipe's coming across the line. He's got a chance. He's got a block. Could it be Stipe, who hasn't won all season, punching his ticket to the championship 4?
Wow!
Woo! Oh my goodness!
Dylan Stipe, a guy who had, like Sam said, hasn't won all season long, and when it counted most, a playoff driver defeats the odds and gets the win here tonight at Talladega. Dylan Stipe, your race winner. Holy cannoli.
Stipe needed the caution, the late caution that was a wreck on purpose from Caleb Smith. It was needed for that moment to get unlapped, be the last car on the lead lap, and then battle. Wait for the carnage to happen. And this 20 machine was able to be up front and now has a ticket punched in and will be moving on to the championship 4, battling at Charlotte. And the craziest thing now, Carlos, Luminary can no longer just put 4 drivers into the championship 4. We have a different contender, but will this 20 machine have the fight? 1.5 miles, that's where we've been seeing the struggle from Stipe, but certainly a wildcard race like Talladega, giving him a chance to battle it out.
Luminary had 4 entering in the remaining in the playoffs as Kenny fell out last week at Atlanta. It's not going to be a Luminary 4 fighting for it. Dylan Stipe making a name for himself in this race. It was already known as he's going to burn it down with his teammate, David Duran, who ended up with 7th today. Trying to look through here, some other drivers getting it done. Philip Scott, a great points day for him. 4th for him. Mike Tellier, he gets 6th. Those are your top 3 playoff drivers. Tellier's burning it down with them.
Philip Scott 4th, Tellier 6th. That's great for those playoff drivers. And
Brandon King 8th?
Yeah, it's just beating out all the drivers that were looking like favorites through stage 1 and 2. But when it comes to the end, you never know what's going to happen here at Talladega, and certainly a surprise. You thought maybe someone else could steal it away. Was a non-playoff contender going to get it done, but not able to.
As you look at the waffle, well, you saw it there for a bit, the waffle tandeming there, as we welcome you now to the FRN post-race wind down. Again, Carlos Zimmerman and Sam Dyer with you. We'll get to talk to our top 3 here in just a moment. Just to go through your other finishing results, I'll actually throw that up there right now. There's your finishing results. Dylan Stipe getting the win, holding off Robert Kenny in 2nd. Gerald Campbell 3rd. 4th for Philip Scott. Nathan Hall, give a call to him, getting 5th today, a top 5 for the 28. Then Mike Tellier, David Duran, Brandon King, Alonso Chicano wrecking on the final lap, hard into the outside wall. And then same for Tom Bourne, as well, as we'll toggle through the rest of the finishing results. And a lot of Luminary guys in grounds that we never thought we'd see them in. Outside the top 10, Shane Terry in 11th, Justin Munsell 12th, Bronson Stafford 16th, and amongst others. And then we'll go through the rest of them, the rest of those that did not finish this race this afternoon into the evening hours here. Oh boy, time to catch our breath, Sam. Wow, what
Yeah.
what a finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was coming to the end of the line. Tom was not able to hold on, and what was crazy to see is we saw Stipe get that such a crazy run for himself, but Tom was not able to follow those drivers just because of. Um, Actually, I think Tom might have was trying to finish in front of all the other drivers because where he got pushed off, drove through pit lane, but was penalized because of driving through pit lane. That's what put him back in 10th instead of where he possibly could have been finishing up around 4th place. So it's crazy to see how this finishing went, but it was Stipe that moved the 54 out of the way, which then caused everyone else to shuffle around. And gosh, well, that is just an incredible end to this race as we're getting ready for interviews.
As all three of our top three are ready to go here in the FRN Post Race Wind-Down, let's talk to our third place finisher and Gerald Campbell. Hey, Gerald, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Man, of all the ways to finish a race, that is surely one. You come out in third. You're not running for playoffs in this league this time around, as to accustomed to when I've called other races for you in other leagues. But I got to ask you first. I know that you had it was going to come down to you and Robert Kenny until that late race caution. Just give me your thoughts, man.
Well, I'm just happy. To be honest with you, I came into this race. None of my teammates showed up, and my other teammates gave me a setup from a race like over a year ago, and it failed tech. So I just started pushing buttons until it cleared tech, and then I raced. The thing was not great. It was not a great setup. So I was just happy that it was at least a good pusher because I knew that was going to be the only thing I could really do to keep up with people or to be competitive was just pushing. So when it was me in the 34, man, I was pushing hard, real hard. And if it wasn't for that, would I have been able to beat the 34? I don't know. It would have taken a big run just to. Anytime I took the outside on anybody or ran the second groove or third groove, it just was like I had brakes on the whole time. So my only strategy was run the bottom until I had a big enough run to make it work at the end, and almost worked out. I think the 95 came up just a little bit too much. My ploy was to do a side draft on him, and when he came up, it ruined all the speed on the car. So got happy to finish third in a car that was probably what consider in real NASCAR racing as last year's car. So just happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy, just from our point of view, there were a lot of drivers that looked like they were just loose in the middle of the corner through the tri-oval. Was there at any point during this race that you felt kind of stable at all, or was it just, I'm hoping this thing sticks going through all these corners?
My car was the worst, and I'm sure each car is different with how their setups was. Mine was never really that bad when I was up behind someone, but as soon as someone got in behind me, it just lifted all the air off the spoiler. And especially around the tri-oval, if someone got off the air, you'd hit that bottom lane there where it's inverted to the other direction, and you just really start to lose it. So it was a constant battle of how hard you could get close to somebody. Well, luckily for me, I mean, my car didn't seem to affect people too much. I don't know if it's just how the setup was, which I think is what played into where me and the 34 were faster than the group of cars behind us, even though it was just us two. We were leaving them. It was just my car was not affecting people as much. So that's what kept getting me up to the front was I was just able to, whoever was in front of me, they were leading the race. It's just as simple as that. Whoever was in front of me that whole race was probably the leader. So, each car is probably a little different. But yeah, for me, it was just I couldn't have a car in behind me.
Well,
Yeah,
Gerald.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, Gerald, an incredible run for you tonight. I saw your car just all over the place tonight with the way the setup was, and now telling us that it's kind of a last year car kind of situation. That makes a lot of sense, but the fact that you muscled it home for third, that's very impressive. Before we go, Gerald, as we always do here at FRN, we'll give you some shout out time.
Yeah, thank you to Josh Personette for giving me a setup. It was a half second slower than the field by itself. in qualifying times. That gives you a sense of how much slower this car was to everyone else out there. So I definitely felt like Spire Motorsports there, racing around these guys, and I was like, oh man, that looks like a lot of fun racing that outside groove out there. They're even making it 3 wide, man. They got some speed. But yeah, just thanks PRC. My teammates didn't show up. I'll have to shove it in their face that at least I still got a top 3 on a really bad setup. So they're gonna have to make it up for me for the next time we go out here with these guys. I wanna be a little bit more of a competitive person than half a second off the field in qualifying. Thank goodness there wasn't over 43 cars. I wouldn't have made the field. So yeah, no. Other than that, I like FRN. You guys do some great broadcasting, so I always appreciate whenever you guys are doing a league. Anyone that's out there looking for people to do a league, you're going to get good drivers showing up when you get broadcasters like you guys. So thank you guys for broadcasting, and hopefully I got a setup underneath me to where I'm a factor in more races. And yeah, no, other than that, thanks PRC Esports, my team that I run with. Thanks to the diecast dude that's on the car. And I look forward to the next one. Maybe maybe I might have a good car then.
Alrighty, Gerald. Once again, a third place run for the 31 of Gerald Campbell. If we see you again in the final 2 races, we'll see you then. If not, have a good rest of your evening.
Appreciate it, guys. Have fun.
And we'll now bring in our second place finisher, Robert Kenny. Robert, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
An incredible run for you. I asked Gerald this. If not for that last caution, it was going to come down to you two on who was going to win this thing. And that caution, unfortunately, did come out, and it put a little bit of a monkey wrench into everything, but you still muscled out a second place finish. I do want to ask you, that big wreck earlier on with all your teammates, I'm sure it hindered a lot of things going forward in the race with you, not only on the car, but even maybe in other ways as well. Just give me your thoughts, man. Regardless, you come out second tonight.
Yeah, it's a shame that that final caution came out. Me and Gerald were somehow pulling on the field as 2 cars instead of the entire pack. And even though I was leading, I was going to be good on fuel, so it would have been a good race to the line either way. But yeah, the wreck that unfortunately that I caused that took up all of my teammates. It was just it's open set super speedway racing. Car's going to be loose, and the draft kind of pulled me into Shane while he was making sure the bottom lane didn't hit him. So it pushed him around just enough where it took the whole field. Unfortunately, most of my teammates were in it, and they wouldn't stop making fun of me about it. But yeah, it was a good finish. Unfortunately, Tom got turned off of 4, but it again, super speedway, it happens. And yeah, I to make sure I had a chance, I just bumped the tape up pretty high, and luckily still got second out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny, the whole entire race was chaotic, and also that caution was the big one that came out. Was unfortunate for it to happen, but we got 2 more races left in the season. You were no longer really battling for a championship. What is your mentality moving forward for Chicagoland and Charlotte?
It's really the same as the rest of the season. Run out as many laps as you can, and hopefully you're at the end to get the checkered. Yeah, it was sad and unfortunate that I got knocked out first round. But that's what happens when you have 2 bad races in a row. Yeah, it is what it is.
And well, for you, Kenny, no longer in the playoff picture, but again, a good run for you tonight. Second place, just short of the victory. Before we let you go this evening, though, anybody want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just shout out to all the teammates there: Rick, Bronson, Shane, Justin, Sponsored on the Car Sim Speed Shop, G Fuel, Evil Controllers, Cineplex. And shout out to you guys for putting on broadcasts every week, lead admins for putting on the races each week. And I'm apologizing for sounding so out of it. I did the Daytona 24 before this, and I'm just physically and mentally exhausted.
No, understandable. We mentioned that during the broadcast that a lot of you guys were running that race as well. So understandable. We'll let you go then. Have a good rest of your night. Get some rest, man, and we'll see you next week at Chicagoland.
Yep, see you next week.
Yeah, I do want to say that it was a great run for Robert Kenny. Yes, you hate to see that happen, but Luminary themselves, for that 24-hour race that they were part of, Kenny's team actually won in their split. So they're tired, but excited about one race. Certainly are going to be talking about this one, though, for a while.
No, absolutely. And now we get to the end of the hour. Our winner this evening, Dylan Stipe. Dylan, it's Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Man, what a drive for you. Coming to that caution, we talked to both Robert and Gerald that caution really hurt them, but man, it did benefit you. Getting the lucky dog, getting back on the lead lap, and then working your way through the calamity that ensued on the front straightaway, and it brought you to victory lane for the first time this season. Just give me your thoughts, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I wish it ended up a little bit better than, a wreck happening out in front of me. I'm pretty sure I maybe got into Tom just a little bit. I had Robert right behind me that was trying to push me. Tension was getting really high. We're about to come, to the checkered flag. Anything pretty much goes. Everyone has a run. So there's bound to be something, something always to be happening right there before the checkered flag at a super speedway. But yeah, I was pretty much not going to be in the position that I did get today, which was first, winning the race. Before that caution came out, I got a penalty. I didn't slow down fast enough. I kind of slid into the grass and got an unsafe pit entrance and had a 40-second hold. And that kind of I was just on for the ride right there. And that caution came out, kind of saved me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan, you're now locked in to the Final Four. How are you feeling now with that pressure off of having to worry about points and make sure you have enough points to get in, to now all your focus is for Charlotte? Do you feel like you can really think about Chicagoland, or is all your thoughts now for Charlotte from here on out?
No, I take every race, every week, one step at a time. I mean, Chicagoland is still a pretty big race, even if I am locked in. I mean, I want to try to get those bonus points for the next, or actually the bonus points not even going to matter. But I mean, it's still a race. I still want to push hard. I still want to compete with everybody and be competitive. So I'm going to try to race, the way I've been racing the entire time, maybe be a little bit more aggressive to, still get maybe another win, hopefully cross my fingers. But I guess I don't really have to worry about it as too much the next race, but I'm still going to race the next race as hard as I can.
Sam, any final thoughts you want to give for Dylan?
No, I mean, just an ultimate congratulations, and now the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
I just want to shout out Waffle Motorsports. They're a good bunch of guys. Love racing with them. Love hanging out with them. In the sim or out of the sim, playing other games or just talking. Shout out to this league. There's a bunch of great drivers. Love racing with all these guys, even though there might be a wreck or two here and there. But just the racing in general is just the best kind of racing I've ever had in any other league. It's always intense. Something's always happening, other than cautions.
Dylan, again, congratulations on the win. Your first win of the season, and you're into the finale at Charlotte, so you can probably take a seat and relax at Chicago next week. I'm sure you're going to go for another win to try and pad as much as you can, but best of luck to you next week up in Chicago, and we'll see you then, man. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys broadcasting us.
And that will just about do it. Man, Sam, I knew going into this race it was going to be an incredible one throughout. Lots of wild action happening, wrecks left and right. And it poised out to be an incredibly great finish. A finish of a 0.072 margin of victory for Dylan Stipe tonight.
Yeah, and this now has completely changed what the playoff picture is going to be looking like. It was all looking around who was going to beat Tom Bourne on points wise. Now Tom Bourne is the driver that's trying to look in and try to figuring out how is he going to be getting into the top 4. It is certainly going to get wilder and wilder. Certainly at Chicagoland, where we most likely, if we stay green, it is going to be a crazy fuel mileage race to see at the end, and it could come out possibly like we saw Atlanta, where drivers unsure how far they can really go.
Absolutely, is the once again your top 10 on the screen as you see Dylan Stipe getting the win, Robert Kenny second, Gerald Campbell third. Big points day for Philip Scott and for Mike Tellier and Brandon King, all of them getting top 10s along with Tom Bourne. So we had, at the end of the day, we had 5 playoff drivers finish in the top 10. The 3 of them that didn't finish in the top 10, they were all out of luminaries. So that was the stunning thing to see for Justin Munsell, Shane Terrian, and Bronson Stafford. Going to have to collect themselves going to Chicagoland next week, same time, same great channel, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, right here on the Flatout Racing Network, January 31st. Sam, we got a lot going this week. I'll quickly go through it. G4 Sim Racing, the Grand National Series, that is coming up on Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. They're at North Wilkesboro for round number 12 in that race. The Dark Horse IndyCar Series, that is coming up on Wednesday, a part of our FRN doubleheader. That they will be at Road America for round 4. And then coming up and starting an hour after them, it is the Sarg Super Speedway Series, the 21 Cup season. Round number 3 at the 2008 configuration of Daytona. That one at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Thursday night, the RTG Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge continues. Round number 4, that one at 8 o'clock on Thursday Central Time. And then, like I said, right back here on Sunday for the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Second race of round of 8. Going to be a lot of fun up in Joliet, Illinois at Chicagoland. Sam, always a pleasure to have you here in the booth with me calling these things. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, tonight certainly was a head scratcher at times, but certainly amazing as what Talladega brings us. And it's always a pleasure to be up in the booth with you, Carlos. Cannot wait to see how these final 2 races are going to go down.
It's going to be a lot of fun over the next 2 weeks. Chicagoland and Charlotte left for the Clutch Drop Cup Series Season 1. Well, for Sam Dyer and for myself, Carlos Zimmerman, always going to remind you folks to lend a hand of support to someone that may need it in this time of coronavirus that we are in. Help each other out, and we can get through this thing all together. Good night, and God bless from Talladega, Alabama. We will see you in Chicagoland next week.